BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Mike Danger.
There's a segment of Bills Mafia right now that has already pressed the panic button. And there's another segment, and I'm in this segment, that I believe that the Bills just are this, that they are not a team that's going to be the dominant team that we've seen from time to time. I think they're a 10-win team.
Gene Battaglia.
I think this is not a good job by McDermott coaching. If I hear complimentary football one more time.
Complimentary football.
You only talk about complimentary football when you're going up against a superior opponent.
I'm picking them to lose this week.
Touchdown, Tampa Bay!
They're a really good football team.
The worst case scenario for Rob Manfred for Major League Baseball if you had a Texas-Arizona World Series.
And the 2023 Arizona Diamondbacks are headed to the World Series.
There is a James Harden update as the Sixers get set to open their season.
Sabres 6, Senators 4.
And they're going to drop their gloves. Kachuk and Alex Tuck.
Amerks Hockey.
Matt Savoy getting his first game as the Amerks take on Charlotte.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Doors are open. Welcome on in. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us.
Every afternoon from 3 until 6. Exceptional sports talk for the Flower City. That's where we're here to provide. I'm Mike Danger. That's Gene Battaglia. Before you say anything, Gene, the Dandalorian, who is our bounty hunter, the finest audio in the galaxy. And he's a man of few words. He goes about his business. He does his job.
He's a grumpy sports fan. He's always angry at his teams.
I wasn't going to insult him. I was just trying to heap some praise on him. He leaves little morsels, little breadcrumbs here in the studio from time to time. On this side of the board, I look and I see there's an 11-second soundbite just labeled Gene Jinx Catalana's Phillies. Do you know what this is about? Could this have been from earlier this week? I don't know.
Mike, let's be honest. Baseball has to go back to reseeding here. This is an embarrassing kind of bracket here. Really, you get the Diamondbacks. Congratulations on advancing to the World Series, Mike. Wow. You got if I'm the one who did that, well then yay me for Yes, it's fun to pile on. I'm going to give you a positive one here because if you go back this isn't the first time this stadium has hosted a World Series. Remember in 2020, it was a neutral site.
Yes.
So and the fact that the Rangers have the home field advantage, pretty good chance that this is going to get wrapped up in Game 6 or Game 7, which would mean the game would be in Arlington, Texas. And judging by how those fans treated Ron Manfred in 2020, I would expect nothing less than 2023.
2020 is going to be remembered.
Where's the suck up? Where's Manfred's little suck up? Oh, there he is.
Thank you. 2020 is going to be remembered as a baseball season like no other. Our clubs, and especially our players, were presented with an array of unique challenges.
2020. What is it?
Mind you, there's only like 10,000 people left at that point, and they are just letting him have it.
Manfred sounds like he needs a laxative in that clip. And I love, my favorite part is the one guy, the one kiss ass who's in the back. Everybody's booing, raining boos on the commissioner, but he's got his one lackey. The one guy, the one Smithers.
Smithers.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Burr.
He's terrible. Well, we have a World Series. That'll be one of the things that we discuss here in the Sports Bar this afternoon. Let's get you set up with what's on tap. Thanks to our friends from Three Heads Brewing, Mexican Dark Lager. Enjoy this traditional Vienna-style lager enjoyed south and north of the border. Get yours at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue today. And we're one day away from Bills-Bucks. I mean, it's a short week for the Buffalo Bills. They get right at it. Thursday Night Football on Prime. We'll have the action for you here on The Fan with our pregame coverage tomorrow afternoon starting at 4 o'clock. So we're almost 24 hours away from that pregame coverage, and we want to squeeze in as much as we can between now and then from Buffalo rumblings. his inaugural visit into the sports bar. Bruce Nolan's stopping by.
Yeah, so he's online. I like the way he prints, right? Like, he has takes on this Bills offense. He has opinions on the Buffalo Bills. So let's bring him on the show for the first time. Buffalo Rumblings. Now, that is not his real name, mind you. Bruce Nolan is. So I'm like trying to, like, who is he really? I don't know if we need to necessarily know that, but he's somebody with takes here that's going to come in.
Mike Danger's not my real name.
It's
Newsflash. You stand across from somebody who uses a fraudulent stage name on a daily basis.
And do I ever call you by your real name? No.
No, not often.
No.
So Bruce Nolan, Buffalo Rumblings, the Bruce exclusive podcast, will be joining us in the 4 o'clock hour, and we'll talk some Buffalo Bills. Also joining us in the 4 o'clock hour, we go to the Bay. We talk to our friend, Scott Reynolds of the Pewter Report.
Who's always good for a one-liner about this team. He brought us the beauty last time when we were talking about the Baker Mayfield-Kyle Trask battle. Remember that during camp? Like,
Deliberate learner.
Right, like, wait a second, why hasn't Kyle Trask won the job? And rather than say he's not smart, well, he's a deliberate learner. It takes you that half second. Oh, that's what you're saying.
Deliberate learner, code for dummy.
This is a team that's not tanking. The Buccaneers are 3-3, and they could certainly be 4-3. In fact, yesterday on the show, Matt Perino picked Tampa Bay to win, and Tampa Bay is holding on right now to that final playoff spot in the NFC. So a Buccaneer team that has some veterans on a short week. How does this play in Buffalo? We'll talk to Scott Reynolds a little bit after 4.
Yeah, I'm curious about Baker Mayfield because, like many of us, Baker Mayfield may be just a little bit better when he's got that sun beating down on him every single day down there in the Bay Area. And he comes to Buffalo with, experience against the Bills. He had beaten Buffalo during his time in Cleveland. So he's not going to back down from the Buffalo Bills. Scott Reynolds of the Pewter Report joining us right around 4 o'clock here in the Sports Bar. And as we do every Wednesday at 3:25, we get some wins with our friend from Send It In, BetQL's Send It In, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, PJ Glasser, Insider Calls, presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. PJ joins us here in less than 20 minutes.
So you and I kind of go over, all right, PJ, what do we want to talk about? And certainly he's going to have some NBA picks. You got a full slate tonight. If you just want to have a little fun on your phone, absolutely go that direction. PJ will help guide you on that. But the NFL we're going to really dive into. So PJ has a pick coming up on the Bills and Bucks. And yes, he is going to have a pick on the Chargers and Bears coming up, which danger. I don't know which way he's leaning on this, but if he's saying take the Bears and the points, then that would kind of lead. That's my survivor pick. Avoid that game. I went with Philadelphia.
Yeah, I saw another guy from BetQL that we've had on the show, Ed Egros, mention that the Chargers were going to be his survivor pick this week, and he used the logic that I know drives you crazy, so I'm going to say it anyways.
My only chance to use the Chargers.
When will I ever have a chance to use the Chargers?
Oh, my.
When will I ever have a chance?
The one stat, and now it's real here. We're in the last week of October, heading to November. They have the 32nd ranked pass defense, which would make any quarterback look good, even that Division II, whatever you're throwing out there in Chicago.
No, yeah, Tyson Bagent. Don't speak ill of Tyson Bagent.
Well, he must be good. He beat up here, man. So
he's, for what it's worth, and I'm not expecting great things. And in fact, if his ceiling is career backup in the NFL, I think that's a pretty good compliment considering where he came from as an undrafted rookie who, played Division II. Bagent has stepped up to every challenge that's been thrown his way as a professional up to this point. I don't know if that continues, but you asked him to, come in as an undrafted rookie. He did. Make the team. Yes. Make some plays in the preseason. Yes. Take over the number 2 spot. Push Peterman aside. Yes. All of that has happened, and now he gets, to play. He plays a competent game last week against the Raiders. He gets the Chargers in prime time. Like, he's stepped up every challenge that they've given him. I don't know that continues on Sunday. I'm curious to find out myself. Personally, I would stay away from that game for Survivor just because of what we always talk about, bad defenses or bad plays. The Chargers always seem to charger. It would be very it would be an interesting storyline in the NFL if Tyson Bagent goes into L.A. and beats the Chargers.
Well, it's a little unorthodox taking a road team a divisional game, but I don't think Washington is any great shakes. They have the 30th ranked pass defense. Their quarterback is on a record pace to break David Carr's sack record. Not Derek. David Carr, when he was a rookie expansion team.
Got crushed back there for the Texans.
That ruined him.
It really did.
That ruined him, honestly. He might have been a good quarterback. We'll never know. So Sam Howell just seems like the modern-day Drew Bledsoe, so feel comfortable about that. But we'll talk to PJ coming up, host of BetQL Send It In. Always love our conversations, and we got to figure out what Baltimore reference we want to.
All right, we'll throw an all-timer at him, see if he can get we can get his Baltimore accent to shine a little bit here, as we do every week with PJ Glasser from BetQL's Send It In. You can join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. 585-866-4FAN is our phone number, 866-4326. We sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app. You can download that. You can also check out the video stream. We are live on YouTube and on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Just make sure you like and subscribe while you are there. You can even get us on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. You brought up some defensive rankings there for a couple of bad teams. I saw some Bills rankings today, and you know what? For all of what we've talked about up to this point, a team that's 4-3, and we have a lot of complaints, and our eyes tell us that things look a little rotten in Denmark. When you look at how this team is ranked in the NFL, it kind of goes counter to what we've been talking about. Like, I don't know that the panic is necessarily justified right now when you just look at how the offense and defense for this team has performed this season. What if I told you that right now the Buffalo Bills defensively in points per game were a top 5 defense?
Okay, I believe that.
What if I told you that the Buffalo Bills offensively in points per game were a top 3 offense?
That would be surprising. I know you had a couple. Well, the Miami game, I'm sure, helps out in that regard.
No question. At 28.3 points per game, the Buffalo Bills are ranked 3rd in the NFL for points per game offensively. And defensively, I want Sean McDermott's defense to be a don't bend defense, but they've truly been a bend but don't break. In points per game, they rank 5th, just under 17 points per game by this Bills defense. Now, yards per play, certainly rushing yards per play, it's ugly. They're 31st in rushing yards per play. They're 26th in yards per play defensively, but they're keeping teams from scoring. They're preventing teams from getting in the end zone, and you've got at least right now a top 5 defense in points per game. Now, they were as good as 2nd in points per game earlier this season. As recently as week 4, they were holding teams to under 14 points per game.
Well, it's also notable, too, that I think when we're talking about all these numbers, can we just kind of back out the lens here? Like, football right now, it's not what we like as fantasy players. We like scoring. We like big offenses. It seems like everything is kind of in a rut here, Danger, is that, if you go back right now, only 8 teams scored 25 points last week.
Mm-hmm. Every defense is trying to do what Sean McDermott has done with this Bills defense. Every defense just wants to eliminate the big play. We can't give up the big play. Can't do it. Everything has to stay in front of you. Don't give up the big play. And I think that affects what you're talking about. I think it affects the scoring. I think you're not seeing as many explosive plays. So, yeah, defensively, the Buffalo Bills, in terms of points per game, top 5. Offensively, in terms of points per game, top 3.
But in this is an eye test. This is the reality. I'd like to know what the numbers would say on both sides of the ball. Jacksonville. And why do I say the Jacksonville game? It's because that's when really the injuries. Yes, Tre'Davious White happened in the Miami game.
Mm-hmm.
But not having Matt Milano and Daquan Jones on that side of the ball. And now there's been 2 games where Dorian Williams has been sat down, where I'm not ready. Like you're going to have to let the kid make mistakes here. But can teams run up the middle on the Buffalo Bills? I certainly saw New England having some success.
That hasn't changed. They've been the worst or the second worst team in rushing yards per play defensively dating back to week 3. That hasn't changed. That was with when you still had Daquan Jones, when you still had Matt Milano. They were still the worst team. Week 3, the Bills were 32nd in rushing yards per play.
So is that just a product of keeping the two safeties up high? And we're not going to make sure that whoever you're facing, Tyreek Hill or whoever the Giants trotted out or whatever it is, like everything in front of you, gentlemen.
Yeah, everything in front of you. Know where you're supposed to be. Know your assignment. Keep everything in front of you. Win your battles. And everything should take care of itself. You're going to give up some big plays. But are you going to keep them out of the end zone? Can you keep them out of the end zone? There are a handful of plays that you can look back on and be like, oh, Christian Benford, I think, chased down Travis Etienne in that Jacksonville game. Or no, I'm wrong. It was, no, I can't remember. Benford, I want to say, in one of the earlier games this year, came from behind and really prevented a touchdown. Like, I think they're okay with giving up the big rushing play as long as it doesn't equate to points on that play.
Well, in this Tampa Bay, that's why I want to learn from Scott Reynolds here, because I didn't think the Giants would come in and at least make that a game. Certainly, we didn't think New England would look the way they did. And now this is a Tampa offense that has some household names we're familiar with. If you play fantasy, Evans and Godwin, and there's Baker Mayfield out there, and some leftover tight ends. Is there enough left over from that championship team on defense to keep this interesting on a Thursday? So I don't take anything for granted here at this point. Just seems like the negativity surrounding this franchise.
There's a lot of panic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of panic right now. And, that game on Sunday could have gone the Bills' way. Just like Week 18 could have gone the Patriots' way, right?
Or just like the previous week could have gone the Giants' way and you lose shamefully on national television.
Right. Exactly right. Exactly right. There's a razor-thin margin for error with this team. And God, it was the beginning of the season when we had Tim Graham on, or maybe we saw him at training camp, but we kind of just asked him.
No, we had him on here. We asked him, what would it take for the Buffalo Bills to get over the hump? He says, luck.
Yeah.
Luck.
Look, you're not going to like the answer, but they might need to get lucky. They just might need a little bit of luck. That they're not necessarily doing everything wrong, but they have been a bit unlucky. Now, you could say the injuries that have piled up so far this season points to this team still being a little bit snake bitten.
True, but it's not like, I think most of us agree, you can overcome these injuries just based on the position and based on the depth at that position. Ultimately, you still, if it were Allen and Diggs, forget it. We're talking about the draft here, but it's not. It's Daquan Jones and Matt Milano. Granted, a Pro Bowler and a defensive tackle was helping everything else go here in this defense. And well, you can overcome that by stepping things up on offense. And, well, in reality, it's kind of gone in reverse since the Miami game.
Good preview coming up here when we talk more Bills next hour with Bruce Nolan from the Bruce exclusive Buffalo Rumblings, and also with Scott Reynolds from the Pewter Report to give us the Tampa Bay side of things. By the way, I saw a quote today from Baker Mayfield basically saying, hey, look, we're coming to grips with the idea that we're not a run-first team. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they're going to test Jackson and Benford. That secondary is going to get put to the test. And boy, they've been a challenge for a lot of teams for a long, long time. It's going to be fun. Again, tomorrow, our pregame coverage gets underway here on the Fan. Rochester, starting at 4 o'clock.
Technically, I think probably 1 o'clock with Brownie and Tasker, and then you and I have this amazingly hard 1 hour to do.
It's called the Heavy Lift Show. It's a heavy lift for us. 1 hour of sports talk in the Flower City tomorrow before we make way for Buffalo Bills. Are you playing the game? You're playing the game with Derek, aren't you?
You caught me doing that.
You're playing the game. You're in the middle of the show.
Did you know
you're a child?
I got a text Sunday morning. Our business manager got married over the weekend.
Yeah. Shannon, congratulations, Shannon. We love you.
Yeah, it's her in her wedding dress flipping me off.
And it got sent from the pizza dude, from Derek?
No, from one of his associates.
Yeah. He's got associates in the game now.
Like, oh, who is this?
For those of you new to the show, Gene and our main engineer, Derek the pizza dude, have a game that they've played. Look at that. Have a game that stems back to Derek's time at SUNY Brockport when he was calling football games. And Gene, being the class act that he is, looked over to Derek the pizza dude and young Nick Coble and gave them the finger right before kickoff. Just for no reason at all. Just to
That is not true.
Oh, are you trying to loosen them up?
I thought I sense nerves. Which look, you're a young broadcaster. Who doesn't get nervous? You and I still get nervous sometimes. Like, you know what? You know how you break down? Bleep you.
Yeah.
And then we started to laugh and everything was fine.
Yeah. But now it's become this game where you try to surprise each other by giving each other the finger. And Derek the pizza dude happens to be working right now in the studio next to ours. So through the glass, he was kind of hiding and lurking. And I saw that digit come up, and then I saw you move to try and hit him.
Derek is like below the glass and was going to pop up and do this. I'm like, no, I saw you, dude. That doesn't count.
It's like
while I'm on the air.
Yeah, right. He's like going incognito. It's like a top secret mission. James Bond over here, lurking in the shadows and dropping a digit on you.
I've got to figure out a way to get him. Like, what would be the biggest way to do this?
Well, you're going to have to fight fire with fire and try to get some of his friends to work with you against him. Let's see if that can happen. All right. As you can tell, we are 100% focused and dialed in. Let's regroup, take a break. Come back. PJ Glasser, the host of BetQL's Send It In. We'll give you some winners in the NBA. We'll give you some winners in college football. And, of course, Week 8 in the NFL, including the Bills and the Bucks tomorrow night. PJ Glasser next on The Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up.
update.
Defensive tackle Ed Oliver questionable for tomorrow. Out for the game against the Buccaneers. Quentin Morris, Valen Spector, as well as Dawson Knox. Bills and Buccaneers. Our pregame coverage begins at 7 o'clock. We make that 4 o'clock tomorrow. We'll talk about the lines coming up with PJ Glasser, your host of BetQL Send It In. He joins us next year in the Sports Bar. Tonight at 7, we've got the Rochester Americans. They host the Charlotte Checkers. Matt Savoy is down on conditioning. He's excited to be in the lineup.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it's been a while since my last game, and even that was the Prospects game. So this is kind of my first game of this season, and I'm excited. It's been a while, so I'm just ready to get going here.
Don Stevens has the call tonight beginning at 7. Sabres next in action Friday at New Jersey. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
All right, we're joined now, as we are every Wednesday at this time, by the host of Send It In, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, PJ Glasser. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. Well, PJ, we don't have any baseball to talk to you about today. It's Rob Manfred's dream scenario, right? The Texas Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks. How you holding up, bud?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
Yeah, I mean, are you one of those fans, PJ, like, well, the Orioles didn't make it, but at least they lost to the world champions? Are you leaning that way as a fan, PJ?
I am, but I also love a good underdog story because I kind of see the Diamondbacks as almost the NL version of the Orioles. They're going to have the Rookie of the Year in the NL and Corbin Carroll, nice young nucleus, and it was a good surprise that they made the playoffs. Nobody saw them going this far, but I'll root for the D-backs. To your point, though, Gene, if the Rangers won, I would be upset because, as a fan, when the team that you lose to wins it all, kind of makes you feel a little better.
Yeah, the Sunday lineup seems a little better here, talking to you beforehand as opposed to the Saturday lineup here. And as far as what we want to play here, you've got a few good games to take a look at. Let's start with Vanderbilt Ole Miss. How do you see this one playing out, PJ?
Yeah, Gene, like you said, the college slate this week, not too much is jumping out to me, but I do like this spot for Vanderbilt against Ole Miss. So Vandy's not having a great year, fellas. Obviously, their football program hasn't been good for a while, but they've played Georgia, Mizzou, and Kentucky this season. They've lost to all of those teams by exactly 17 points. They also lost to Florida by 24. They're playing Ole Miss this week, and they're catching 24.5, so I think they can keep it close, and I think it's a good spot to fade Ole Miss. The Rebels won only their second game in their last 10 tries at Auburn last week, and they have games against A&M and Georgia coming up. So it's a perfect sandwich spot. Vanderbilt gets to play the number 12 team in the country, so you know that they're going to fight hard, give it their best shot, and against these good teams that they've played, they've been hanging around. So I think they can cover the 24.5 this week.
All right, PJ, let's head out west. Washington, Stanford. What do you like about this matchup?
Yeah, so last week, guys, you could just kind of see that coming with Washington, right? One of the games of the year against Oregon, it was awesome. Penix was great. And then just the letdown last week. Penix didn't even throw for a touchdown. It was rainy in Seattle. They were playing a one-win Arizona State team. They escaped with a 15-7 victory. Well, now I think they got their bad game out of the way. Now they refocus. They go up against a Stanford team that's no good. It's going to be great weather out in Palo Alto. Anything under the 28, I like Washington this week. They're 26.5 right now. I think they'll get right, and they'll blow out the Cardinal this week.
PJ, the Bills have fallen back into this category of, well, they did escape over the Giants, but either they win big or they don't normally win the close ones, as we saw them stub their toe against New England. And I'm looking at this line, Tampa Bay getting 8.5 in Buffalo. How do you play this here? Is this one you want to stay away from? Which way are you leaning here?
It is, Gene. Last week I told you guys I didn't really have a great feeling on the Pats game. I thought it would be a nice bounce-back spot for Buffalo. I like the teaser leg as well. If New England didn't score at the end, they would have covered that teaser. I think that's probably the way to go again this week. You tease them under the 3 to 2.5. I just don't know what to think of Buffalo. I mean, like you said, normally when the Bills are right, these kinds of games, when the spreads are big, they're at home, they usually have no problem. But those defensive injuries, I mean, as you guys know, Milano, Tre'Davious White, like those are superstars on that defense that they're missing. Allen doesn't look healthy, doesn't look right. The offense hasn't been really good since the Dolphins game. So I don't really want any part of laying a big number with the Bills right now, but I don't really want any part of Baker Mayfield either because he's starting to kind of look like the Baker that we all expected coming into the year. So I would just tease the Bills down, get them under a field goal. I think they win the game, but it could easily be like a 6 or 7 point victory.
Hey, I must have missed it. Did you say that there was an injury in the Bills' defense? There was a linebacker that was injured. I missed his name. Who was that?
That was Matt Milano.
Just making sure. Thank you, PJ. Thank you for humoring us.
You got it.
Falcons Titans. Look, this is one where it looks like we might see Will Levis for the first time. Yeah. The Titans trading away, somebody important to their secondary to Philadelphia. That Titan to Philadelphia pipeline remains intact, and the Falcons, a sneaky good team this year in the South. What's your take on this matchup?
Guys, this has gotten to the point where now that we're getting a key number at 3, I think Tennessee is absolutely the play. I get it, Will Levis is starting, and none of us know what to expect, right? He's never played an NFL game, so we don't know how he's going to look. Tennessee's coming off a bye, though, which we like, and the Falcons are coming off a big win. That was Desmond Ritter's first road win in the NFL. Did everything to try and give that game away. He had 2 fumbles at the 1-yard line. I'm still not in on Atlanta. Also, you got to remember, Arthur Smith was the OC for the Titans for some years under Mike Vrabel. Vrabel knows him well. So I think he's going to have a great game plan. I think they're going to shut down Atlanta. And I kind of like that he's going with 2 quarterbacks, right? Maybe more running with Willis. Levis comes out and throwing. It's probably going to be a big Derrick Henry game, which is never a bad thing if you're back in Tennessee. So I like the Titans with the +3 at home.
Yeah, PJ, with the fact that the Bills are playing on Thursday night, for Bills fans here, you can watch everything on Sunday, and I cannot wait for Sunday. And one of those games I'm having trouble figuring out, it's Minnesota and Green Bay, where Green Bay is not giving any points at home. What I'm seeing right now in BetQL is this is a pick'em game. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, Gene, this is sports betting 101 right here, right? I mean, you got a Minnesota team coming in off of a really good win in prime time against the Niners. But guys, think about how many things had to go their way for them to win that game, right? McCaffrey fumbles on the first possession. Then you have the touchdown at the end of the first half. Purdy throws a couple of interceptions. Not to mention Trent Williams was injured for San Francisco as well. He might be back this week. So, yes, it was a great win for Minnesota, but it easily could have been a loss. And on the flip side for Green Bay, they were awful, but they still had a chance to win the game. They're up 17-16 in the fourth quarter. They had a chance to win. I think they bounced back at home. Guys, the look-ahead line before Minnesota played on Monday night was Green Bay -2.5. Minnesota's probably going to close as favorites in this game. Are we ready to swing the line 3 points for the Vikings off of one win against the Niners? I'm not ready to do that. I like Green Bay at home this week.
What about the Ravens and Cardinals? The Ravens looking impressive. Lamar Jackson, the AFC's offensive player of the week. But the Cardinals have been scrappy throughout the course of this season. Not winning a lot of games, but scrappy nonetheless, PJ. What's your take?
So I think this pick's going to surprise a lot of people, guys. I really like the Cardinals this week at +8.5. This game screams letdown for the Ravens, right? Think about their schedule. They played at Cleveland, at Pittsburgh, travel all the way to London to play against Tennessee, travel back to Baltimore to play a red-hot Lions team. Now you have to travel across the country to play a 1-6 Arizona team. This easy could be a letdown spot for the Ravens. And if there's one thing we know about the Cardinals is they're going to fight. I think what's so interesting about this game, guys, the Ravens this season 7-0 against the spread in the first quarter. The Cardinals are 7-0 against the spread in the second quarter, and they're 6-1 ATS in the first half. Whoever can kind of win that first half, I think, is going to be key because Arizona, as we know, kind of has a letdown in these second halves. I think the Ravens are so good at getting off to hot starts, but so are the Cardinals. And if there's one team in the NFC that kind of simulate Lamar and his speed and is used to it, it's Kyler Murray, right? I mean, the Cardinals know what it's like to go up against a fast quarterback. So I think they'll have a nice game plan. I think they'll keep it close. I like Arizona plus 8.5.
Now, PJ, full disclosure, this next game we want to ask you about, we've been talking about, we went into detail on this yesterday, Bears and Chargers, and that's why, because we're still alive in Survivor. We took Seattle last week, we moved on, and I don't want to lean you one way or another here. Bears, Chargers, what do you see here?
Well, first off, I just want to say I'm glad you guys didn't listen to me with the Packers. I didn't listen to myself either, I have to say. The more I thought about it, I actually went with Philadelphia. So we're all still alive, which is good. I'm not taking the Chargers this week. I think Mike Danger's Bears are going to roll into SoFi and upset the Chargers.
Yes!
Hear me out. Can't you see it? Tyson Bagent, it's been an unbelievable story, right? Now he gets to play in prime time in front of America. He's going to go into Sunday Night Football. He's going to win. He's going to be on Good Morning America Monday morning. Meanwhile, this is the final straw for Brandon Staley. He's going to be fired Monday morning. You came out of the bye week. You had Dallas. You had the Chiefs. You lost both of those games. You're losing the locker room. It's the same old Chargers. This is the final straw. Badgett's not bad, guys. Like, he's really not bad. The Bears have certainly gotten better, and we know the Chargers. They can beat anybody, and they can certainly lose to anybody. This is the upset of the week. I would be nervous about the Chargers. Give me Chicago.
Are you going Chicago money line on that one?
I'm going Chicago money line.
You are something.
Wow.
I love what you say about Bajan. I mean, like, I was just saying this before we brought you on. If you could say anything about the kid, he's accepted every challenge they've thrown his way, and he's done it. Like, they've asked him to do what he's done, and he's stepped up and done it. And does the rest of the team feed off of it? That remains to be seen. But I love that pick. And by the way, when that game is happening, I'll be unconscious.
You'll be unconscious. PJ, we're parking our car in the same garage because what I said was I look at the Chargers last in pass defense. They're going to make any quarterback, any offense look good. I don't like that spot. A little unorthodox. I went with Philadelphia. Yes, Washington played them tough last time. I'm not too concerned. I'm going to use my Philly card this week.
Yeah, guys, and again, when we start getting to this point, we were talking about it last week with Seattle, and look, that was a game where they should have blown out Arizona, but they had turnovers. They were letting them stay in the game. Everybody's going to use the Chargers this week because it's a big point spread, and you just don't trust them. Like, there aren't going to be many games where you trust the Chargers this year, and it's just knowing that everybody's going to take them, it makes me nervous. So I think Philly's probably a good spot, Gene. I told you guys I would go with the Packers last week, and then I didn't end up doing it, but I think that I will use them this week. I think it's a really good spot. I'm throwing around maybe Dallas as well. Dak's like 17-5 against the spread at home. He's really good, ATS at home, and they're coming off a bye, which you have to like, and that pass rush against the Rams O-line, I think is a terrible matchup. So probably going to be between Dallas or Green Bay for me this week.
More opportunity to make money. PJ's got some ideas and some thoughts on a full card tonight for the NBA, which is back. And PJ, I know that there's a handful of games you have circled for tonight's card as well.
Yeah, guys, great to have the NBA back. And obviously night one, there's a lot of opportunity, right? Because we really don't know kind of how these teams might look, especially early on in the season. Some games that I'm looking at are, I like the Kings as small favorites tonight on the road against the Jazz. I think the Kings are going to ride that momentum that we saw all of last season, get a win in Utah tonight. I like the Pelicans as well against the Grizzlies, -115. Pelicans had the best record in the Western Conference when they were at full strength last season. When they got all their guys out there, they're a really talented team. I think they win tonight against Memphis. And then I like the under in Cleveland and Brooklyn, 219.5. Cavs are, if not the best, one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. The Nets are going to have a really good defensive team, too, especially with Ben Simmons back. So I like under 219.5 in Cavs Nets as well.
PJ Glasser, send it in. Tell everybody what time the show drops every day.
Yeah, guys, 1 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time every day. You can watch us on Twitch. You can watch us on YouTube, Instagram, or Twitter. Fast-paced show, and we love the interaction from the fans sending in questions and comments and all their bets. So make sure you join me 1 to 1:30 every Monday through Friday.
I'm telling you, PJ, we're going to be paying attention this weekend. We're going to hold you accountable. We're going to do it again next week, same time. Really appreciate you giving us the time that you do every week here in the Sports Bar.
Always a pleasure, guys. And let's go Bears, Danger.
Let's go, baby. Need something, man. This Chicago sports fan is downtrodden and beaten. Is it really going to come in the form of an undrafted Division II quarterback? Stranger things have happened. Who knows?
Can you imagine?
Oh, I can imagine a lot of things.
Yeah.
I can imagine a lot of things. Quarterback controversy between Justin Fields and an undrafted rookie free agent quarterback. Not really something that was in my scope of imagination.
Like, you can just you're in the best of both worlds because Carolina's going to bottom out and you have their pick. So why not win some games?
They'll still screw it up.
Probably.
They'll still screw it up. Let's not give them that much credit. Love having PJ on with us. When you check out Send It In on all the platforms that PJ mentioned, especially YouTube and Twitch, BetQL's Send It In. Don't forget to like and subscribe to The Fan Rochester as well. You can find The Fan Rochester on YouTube and on Twitch. Our video stream up for you every afternoon here in the Sports Bar. We've got some takes on tap next in the Sports Bar. It's time for I'll Drink That.
Yeah, there's somebody to blame here, where baseball is, and it's actually the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh. What?
Well, I'm going to explain here. Like your baseball take here about this scintillating, sarcasm, World Series matchup. Also, you're one of the first to say, Antetokounmpo, there's another piece of sound from
He's
today.
Kind of a fraud, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, give him a pat on the back for bringing a title to Milwaukee. He's a champion. Can't take that away from him. But I every time I hear him talk, I just think this guy might be mentally soft. I just don't know that I think he's kind of a fraud. I think he's a little bit of a fraud. That's it. But we'll dive into what he said now as he has signed a new extension with the Bucks. We'll get to that and more next. I'll Drink to That is on the way in the Sports Bar, and stand by for Scott Reynolds from Pewter Report joining us here in about 15-20 minutes as well. The Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite
The free Odyssey app. Download it today and follow the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
I want to be here. There's no secret that everybody. But it feels good that I stress a lot of people out. You know, and I don't want to be the reason that a lot of people are stressed out because my life is really, really stressed out and I know how I feel. So if I can make it easier on the organization and my teammates and put us in a better position to win the championship, heck yeah, let's do it.
That's Giannis.
Yeah. Hey, congrats, Giannis. I mean, look, we've been rough on him in the sports bar, but we're saying last year was not a failure. Who could forget that one?
God,
like you're the number one seed, and you're waving your index finger at us.
This isn't a failure, and your head coach was fired like 2 days after you said that the season wasn't a failure. Normally, you don't fire your head coach after the season is a success,
right? And normally you're not a number one seed going out in the first round, too. But he got his money. 3 years, $186 million tacked on. And like when he's talking about he didn't even know what he was signing. He just said, yeah, let's go. I mean, the guy's a liar, right? Who does that?
I just think he's trying is he thirsty? He might be a little thirsty. I just think mentally soft. I mean, look, he's a champion. Can't take that away from him. When he speaks, I just think, all right, he's kind of soft. He's a little bit soft. Heck yeah, let's do it. Okay, great. Don't lie to us. You knew, somebody in your camp knew exactly what you were going to be getting. Don't act like you're above getting the extension there. You didn't know. That's like Baker Mayfield. I think he went number one overall. So it's Sean McDermott. This has become an epidemic. This is something that's happening in our society where is it cool to act indecisive or not know
above it all?
Just above it all. Like, cool.
Well, he went, he went number one overall, and I think, and he went on that same draft.
Everybody's talking in generalities. Nobody's being direct anymore.
Not in the sports bar, Danger.
That's right.
In fact, I have a take here. If you're mad at Major League Baseball for having a playoff format that would allow the Arizona Diamondbacks in the World Series, look, don't be mad at the Diamondbacks. Be mad at Major League Baseball. But also, let's blame the Pittsburgh Pirates. Why would we want to do that? Let's go back here. Arizona actually lost their last 4 games of the regular season. They finished with a measly 84-78 record. But they backed in. Why? Because the Pittsburgh Pirates took 2 or 3 games from your Chicago Cubs.
Yeah.
Arizona finishing 1 game better. They get the final wild card spot. Arizona, a team that finished 16 games out of first place, now playing for a championship. And look, I'm going to take your counter argument, Danger, off the table. And everybody else, well, the Dodgers, anyone else, they had their chance. Fine. But how is it good for any sport, especially this one? 162 games, which are way too many if we're going to be doing this, to have a team only 6 games above 500 in the World Series. Even their fans know I'm right. How do I know they know that? Because $6 tickets were available just last week.
Baseball writer just has to be angry about something that is non-traditional. Can I counter with not talking about how the Diamondbacks don't need to apologize for who they beat? I mean, they beat good teams. They beat the Dodgers. They beat the Brewers. They just dispatched of a Phillies team that I really didn't think was going to lose and we're going to win a World Series. How about this? Can I counter just by saying that 2 new teams in the World Series has the potential to actually be, wait for it, exciting? Like, would we have rather seen the Astros again or a rematch of last year, the Dodgers, or the Braves? Boring. I hear the argument that this is bad for Major League Baseball, Gino. I know a World Series that very few outside of Dallas and Arizona may even care about, but at least it's different. The TV ratings should have zero effect on our ability to enjoy the sport. I just think baseball writer here just has to be angry about something that comes off as non-traditional.
What's done is done at this point. What's done in Danger. Your co-host knows what he's talking about here.
I think my co-host wants to be baseball writer sometimes. Baseball writers' walk-off music is here. Isn't it? walk-in.
Did you see that
your intro music?
The boss has rescheduled a lot of the dates for next year. I cannot wait.
I know.
And they're not going to conflict with the baseball season.
Big Bruce Springsteen guy, baseball writer is.
This is all about greed, Mike Danger. The problem with our society today, that expanding the baseball playoffs, World Series games should be at 1 in the afternoon. Do you know what it's like as a child to go home and watch the World Series?
Yeah.
That's really the problem. You're off the mark here. And also the fact that, well, we would have these pennant races, and they would be so exciting. The Brooklyn.
Tell me how pure it was. Was it pure?
It's the fabric of our society.
Yes, it is, isn't it? The sanctity of the game. This is bad for the sanctity of the game.
It's not the sanctity. It's our country. There's been one constant in America, and there's baseball.
Yes,
baseball. And you can read all about it in my latest article. This is just wonderful. Can I come back on the show to talk about the Hall of Fame?
Come back in to talk about your next book, your next article. Thank you, baseball writer. Yeah, baseball writer comes down from Mount Pius every now and again just to stop into the sports bar and make sure that he keeps us in check. I'm actually kind of excited because it's two teams that we normally wouldn't see. I know nobody here cares about the Rangers. Nobody here cares about the Diamondbacks.
But it's a fact. Is there one Diamondback fan in Rochester? Is there one Texas Ranger fan?
I'm just curious. I want to see what it all looks like. I want to see it's not going to change the joy and excitement that comes with crowning a champion. They're still going to have a good time. And by the way, if it does end in Arlington, you will get a parade of booze, a rainstorm of booze on Rob Manfred. And that will be historic and that will be legendary. And I can't wait for that either. So everybody wins. Well, except for the teams that should have won in the postseason that couldn't close the door.
Everybody's going to be hate watching this across the country.
I'm not going to hate watch it. I'm going to enjoy. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be exciting. I like that it's two teams. Think about it. I mean, if this were the NFL and you had a Super Bowl of, say, I'm just going to throw out two teams that are farting around. Let's say it's Jacksonville
and Tampa Bay
and Detroit.
No, Detroit is having a fine season. They're going to win their division.
Okay, fine.
So, no, it's got to be wild card.
Atlanta. Jacksonville, Atlanta.
We would hate it.
We would hate it. But you know what? It would be fun.
Well, we'd watch it.
Of course.
But that's the difference between football and baseball. People can be like, not for me. Football, we're watching. It's a national sport. The local sport of baseball, we're not interested.
Well, I'll check it out just because it's different.
No, you won't.
I will.
You will not.
I will. I will be our World Series correspondent. I will go ahead and give you a report. You know what I might do? Since tickets are as cheap as you mentioned, what you can get? I can get $6 last week for NLCS games. I don't know what the World Series tickets are going for in the secondary market. I might just take a few days, go down to Arizona, play some golf, get some sun, and take in a World Series game. If it's affordable, yeah, I could probably swing that ticket. What are we talking about here? Do we have the lowest going ticket on the secondary market?
Let's see. I'm going to go to in Arizona, Game 3. I want 2 tickets. All right. Well, it's StubHub. I'm a little surprised, actually, that it's high. $6.19.
Okay. Still not bad. I would do it. I mean, for a pair of tickets and you're spending just over $1,000.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be all right. I think the TV ratings really shouldn't
Mike Danger,
yes.
Pop quiz. Name 3 Arizona Diamondbacks. Go.
All right, you got Christian Walker. You got Eva Longoria. And
Evan Longoria.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's Desperate Housewives.
I did that on purpose.
No, you did not.
And Gallen.
Get Zach Gallen.
Yeah, Zach Gallen. There you go. See, I got 3.
Evan Longoria is still in base.
I know that they're young and they're except for Eva Longoria, she's kind of aged out of the demo. But they're a young, exciting team, and the Rangers have a really, really potent offense. And there's a storyline there with Bruce Bochy getting it done again and potentially getting another another World Series ring. I mean, there's something about that guy as a manager that just gets his team going. I'm excited for it. And if you want, Gene, I will give reports. I will be our Sports Bar World Series correspondent if nobody else is going to watch it. We've got to make room here and take a break. Come back with Scott Reynolds of the Pewter Report. We go to Tampa next in advance of tomorrow night's Thursday night game here on the Fan Rochester between the Bills and the Bucks. Scott Reynolds here in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, the Fan Rochester.
Hey everyone, this is Richard Deitch.
Rochester and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Defensive tackle Ed Oliver questionable for tomorrow. Out for the Bills-Buccaneers game from the Buffalo side, Quentin Morris and Balin Spector, as well as Dawson and Knox. Our pregame coverage tomorrow begins at 4 o'clock here on the Fan Rochester. Scheduled to talk next with Scott Reynolds from the Pewter Report here in the Sports Bar. One other note from the NFL today, 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy is in the concussion protocol. The Niners hosting the Bengals this coming Sunday. Tonight, hockey night in the Flower City as the Charlotte Checkers coming to town now. Down on a conditioning assignment from Buffalo is Matthew Savoy, and Coach Seth Appert says it's good to have him back.
I think what always stands out for me with Matt is his competitiveness and his pace of play. He plays fast and he competes and he stays on the pocket. He then dictates the play. He's a play-driving type of player because of how much he stays on the pocket.
Gene Battaglia, the Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Mike Danger.
There's a segment of Bills Mafia right now that has already pressed the panic button. And there's another segment, and I'm in this segment, that I believe that the Bills just are this, that they are not a team that's going to be the dominant team that we've seen from time to time. I think they're a 10-win team.
Gene Battaglia.
I think this is not a good job by McDermott coaching. If I hear complimentary football one more time.
Complimentary football.
You only talk about complimentary football when you're going up against a superior opponent.
I'm picking them to lose this week.
Touchdown, Tampa Bay!
They're a really good football team.
The worst case scenario for Rob Manfred for Major League Baseball if you had a Texas-Arizona World Series.
And the 2023 Arizona Diamondbacks are headed to the World Series.
There is a James Harden update as the Sixers get set to open their season.
Sabres 6, Senators 4.
And they're going to drop the gloves. Kachuk and Alex Tuck.
Amerks Hockey.
Matt Savoy getting his first game as the Amerks take on Charlotte.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Back in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia, going to talk plenty of Bills and Bucks. Bruce Nolan, the Bruce exclusive, Buffalo Rumblings, going to join us here later on this hour. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills with Bruce Almighty. And, well, Scott Reynolds from the Pewter Report scheduled to join us here as well.
Yeah, well, we're waiting for Scott here. The news from the update there that Brock Purdy in the concussion protocol. Any second guesses now from Niner fans about saying, okay, Trey Lance, there's not room for you here? Because honestly,
if Sam Darnold, I mean, who knows what he is, but what he is probably still better than what you had in Trey Lance. Trey Lance was broken in that organization. And Kyle Shanahan, just, in pure Shanahan fashion, just breaking quarterbacks, just breaking them, mentally breaking them.
It's funny how they weren't concerned last year and they just figured they went with Purdy, but all right, it's Wednesday. He could still be cleared here. I really didn't know he was hurt at following Monday night.
Yeah, and was there word of whether or not that happened in the game or whether or not it happened in practice? I think there's probably some questions there in terms of whether or not we see him coming up this weekend against the Bengals. It's a pretty compelling matchup there between those two teams.
Live radio.
What happened?
Gene, I'm actually double booked. My mistake.
Oh,
I'm doing a radio hit right now.
Boo.
I'm free in 15 minutes or later.
Oh, boy. That's tough.
Right. Well,
that's tough.
Maybe later in the hour.
Well, we'll try to get Scott Reynolds later in the hour. Hey, there was something else last night that went down that we haven't talked about yet, and that was their frozen frenzy there, the NHL frozen frenzy. Let's combat the NBA's opening night on TNT by doing a frozen frenzy on ESPN and getting all 32 NHL teams in action in one night and just do a complete whip around from game to game to game, NFL Red Zone style on ESPN2.
How did this idea not come about sooner? Honestly, hey, we're going to make this hockey night in America, or it's rivalry night here on, what was the old network? The NBC one. I don't even remember. What was that? The old sports, NBC Sports. Remember that?
Oh, right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I did not, full disclosure, check it out last night because I watched the Sabre game in its entirety, and then I flipped over and since I don't get TBS on my package now with football, I was watching the Spanish broadcast of the Phillies and Diamondbacks.
Hey, I was wondering about that. If you watch the Spanish broadcast, do you feel like afterwards you can actually start to pick up the language? You're a product of your environment. If I went to Spain and lived with my relatives there for 6 months, I think I would probably become fluent in Spanish. 6
months, yes. One night of watching it on the MLB Network, no.
Not enough?
No.
What about an entire series? Did you watch the entire series? I know that this was like a pre-produced, manufactured event, but it was fun. It was a fun thing to kind of watch, and I think Bucci and Weeksy they play off each other well, and they have some fun. And you got PK Subban later in the evening serving up chicken parm to the boys. I checked away when they had to do the mandatory check-in with Commissioner Gary Bettman. Guys, it looks like you're having fun. This is a great event for the NHL. Gary Bettman becomes Roz from Monsters, Inc. somehow, but you're the NHL, and this is an event. Anything you could do, and this is ESPN, I think, really doing a solid by the NHL and investing in the product, giving time to the product that they're invested in. This would never, ever have even been a consideration for any of the other networks. ESPN has the bandwidth to do it, and they pulled it off, and I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, every 15 minutes there was a puck drop, and you're kind of going around, and I could do without Gary Bettman kind of showing up there, but does the NBA take exception to that?
Do they care? Does ESPN
they should.
care?
Yeah, does ESPN care at this point? No. Probably not.
No. They will be fine. So that was fun. And by the way, you watched the Sabres. I checked out some of the Sabres as well. They get the win, although towards the end there, were you getting a little bit nervous? Are you like, oh God, they're going to blow
Are
this?
you kidding me? Couldn't you hear me screaming from Spencerport last night? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, we're up 5-1. Crack your knuckles. Everybody take a stretch. And then Ottawa kind of got cheap there at the end. And sure, that resulted in some different players being on the ice and some opportunities, and UPL wasn't sharp down the stretch, and you barely hung on 6-4.
I do like that that the Sabres were capitalizing on their opportunities. The night before Monday night in Montreal, they were getting plenty of chances. I mean, they were getting a lot of pucks to the net, just not able to close the door, not able to put those pucks in the net. And you saw some of that against Ottawa. They were getting some of those breaks, and good things happen when you get the pucks to the net. So they're doing a lot of that, and I think the goals are going to continue to come for the Buffalo Sabres.
What did they have? Three deflections last night in front. It's not complicated. Get somebody in the net, and at least you're screening or you're getting rebounds, or in this case, getting. It amazes me. Like, you have a puck going at 90 miles an hour, and you're going to be able to see it and then know how to tap it and hit it at the right point, like you're a baseball player, to put it by a goaltender. The skill is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Hardest thing in all of professional sports still has to be hitting a baseball, though, right?
Well,
if I had 100 tries at hitting a major league fastball, I don't think I'm making contact once.
I don't think so. I like, when I go on vacation, my son, we go up to the batting cages, and I'm like most dads, right? I'm the dad guy. And like, I'm trying to hit off a 70, all right? And I'm like, I maybe make contact on a couple, not really good contact, but I'm not talking like they're coming in very straight, and I know exactly when it's coming.
Yeah, right.
I still can't really hit
movement.
it. No movement. It's like, right. And if you don't believe me, just treat yourself one time when the Red Wings come around and get a ticket down low just to see what that looks like.
Oh, no, it's
how
filthy.
Fast.
Yeah, it's fast. It's filthy. I have an aversion to batting cages. When I was a kid, my uncle took me to a batting cage once, and stupid me, I wasn't thinking. I'm lucky that I didn't get hit.
Oh my God!
I got hit. But I wasn't paying attention. I put my arm down and I took a fastball to the arm, and the thing just immediately swelled up and bruised up, and I was just like miserable over this. Like, I can't believe I went to the batting cage and I got hit, and that hurt. And again, like, baseball players maybe don't get, we don't talk about the toughness of a baseball player, but you take some of those shots that they take off your foot, off your arm, off your elbow. No, thank you.
You're a shortstop and you have an athlete running at you full speed trying to take you out, and you've got to make the turn on a double play.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're tough.
Well, that was last night. You had the Frozen Frenzy. You had the Diamondbacks advancing to the World Series, which we just spent some time talking about. So it'll be the Rangers and the Diamondbacks Friday night. That all gets underway in Arlington.
And you're not going to go to Arizona to fly in and
Why
watch
not?
this. No, you're not spending that money.
Why not?
You're not.
I could go be our sports bar correspondent at the World Series. I have friends down there. I can make a connection or two.
Name 3 Texas Rangers, Mike Danger.
Okay, Adolis Garcia, Max Scherzer, and Seager.
All right, well, the judges will say yes. I thought you were going to go with the guy that's injured. How do you feel if you're Jacob deGrom?
I don't know if Jacob deGrom has any feelings. He was in a Met for a long, long time. His soul is dead. While we have some time here before we get to Bruce Nolan, the Bills' final injury report out. We know that there will be 3 players officially out for tomorrow night against Tampa Bay. 2 of them are tight ends, so this is interesting. Both Dawson Knox we knew, and Quentin Morris won't be playing as well. So you have Dalton Kincaid now as the lone tight end on the 53-man roster, and really all you have behind him now is a practice squad player, undrafted rookie out of Central Michigan, a guy named Joel Wilson.
Princeton can use a guy like Joel.
What? Huh?
You don't get that line?
What?
Risky Business. Chicago movie. I thought you was on.
Risky Business. Oh, no. Maybe a couple years
Joel,
before my time. Joel will be, we'll see. We'll see if he gets the elevation there from the practice squad, because I doubt that they're going to roll into tomorrow night's game with 1 tight end.
Well, that's why you had to maybe all of a sudden restructure contracts. Everybody last week, or not last week, just a few days ago. Oh, Deion Dawkins, this must mean wringing your hands. Yes, bring me DeAndre Hopkins. Bring me.
Yeah.
No, you're getting Joel Wilson.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose they could, use Reggie Gilliam in that kind of like role. He's played in that role before, but we'll see. The Bucks, by the way, Chris Godwin has been on the injury report, but he appears to be good to go for tomorrow night. He was limited with a neck injury. And Vita Vea will be a game-time decision for Tampa. No Vita Vea would be a huge plus for the Bills' run game. That guy's just a big mound in the middle of that defensive line for the Buccaneers. And they'll also be down their left guard, Matt Feeler. He won't be playing due to a knee injury.
What did you think of this story, Danger, coming out? It's always a good thing. Like, somebody should take away Jim Irsay's phone after hours, right? Like, all of a sudden, a tweet coming out from the Colts owner at night. All right, what are we doing at night, Mr. Irsay? What? He took to X on Tuesday night, just kind of confirming one thing that we already knew, that, okay, your quarterback had surgery and he's going to be okay. He'll be back next year, whatever. And then he also said that the NFL admitted to 2 mistakes at the end of the Colts-Browns game. Now, I think we all can kind of agree that the officiating was not sharp in that game. But what the NFL really doesn't like, they don't want their owners kind of undermining the authority of the officials here. So do we see a fine here or something else coming for the way of Jim Irsay? Or do you want just Jim Irsay just commenting on everything?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to get fined. But, he also brought up a point that you could have replay for every play inside of 2 minutes. I mean, you have replay on every play in every game. You should get these calls right. Now, if you're talking about penalties, so much of that is subjective, right? What is a hold to one crew?
We cannot have pass interference. That didn't work out a couple years ago, did it? When we went to that,
but I mean, you've got replay down to a science now. I mean, like, they're getting calls. The refs are getting calls from New York before the next play. Usually, if they screw up a call, usually. So for the most part, I think they're getting right. And when Irsay makes those comments, I immediately start thinking about, what does this mean for the world of sports gambling? You have to be transparent. You have to be on top of your game. You have to mind your P's and Q's, and you have to get those calls right. You just have to. So, yeah, I think he's probably getting a fine. Irsay, I like it when Irsay goes on X. It's always entertaining. He's on a bender, and he just wants to go out and start, running his mouth. He loves doing that. What was the one? It was last year. It was after they brought in Jeff Saturday.
Yeah. Love to see it.
Love to see it. Kai, he's unbelievable.
Well, he was also the one and only guy that broke ranks on Snyder. Like, wait a second, why aren't the NFL owners doing what they can here to get rid of this guy? And, well, truth is, there's probably a lot of legal stuff behind the scenes that they couldn't, so everybody had to sit tight. And it didn't matter to Jim Irsay. He was the one and only owner out there saying, hey, what are we doing here? So, while I appreciate his candor, actually, when I think about it, probably we need more Jim Irsay owners right in the NFL.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying he's a good guy. I'm just saying, but he's entertaining when he goes online. Hey, I don't know if you saw this, Gino. This is the guy that we were talking about a lot last week, and he's been released by his team. That's Malik Cunningham.
What's the story here? Like, he just signed a 3-year deal. Wasn't for a lot of money. But we were talking about this time last week. Hey, what would be the scenarios for the Bills to lose in New England? Bills beat the Bills. Okay, not happening, right? Or could we actually have a different quarterback there doing different quarterback things that we weren't prepared for? Malik Cunningham. Why don't they use Malik Cunningham? They just signed him. So what is the story? I know the Patriots like to lock down on things here, but feels like there's a story here.
Well, he's been placed on waivers, and I guess the hope is that he will end up being on their practice squad once he clears waivers. That leaves them at quarterback with Bailey Zappi and Will Grier as the backups to Mac Jones. I'm not really sure what the story on Cunningham is. I know how impressive he was in the preseason. That's what that is. Yeah. But he got released today along with veteran defensive end Trey Flowers. He was released rather than activated from the physically unable to perform list. So the Patriots making a couple of roster moves there and moving a few players down to waivers.
Interesting. If you miss PJ Glasser, he's always fantastic on Wednesdays, usually at 3:25. Joined us, giving us his best plays of the week. And I did not expect one of his best plays would actually be a rookie quarterback making his debut in Will Levis. Like, what did you see in August that made you thought, oh, he's the guy? All right, well, the Will Levis show will begin in Tennessee because Ryan Tannehill isn't good to go. Look, far be for me to disagree with PJ Glasser, but PJ would know more than I would, but that would certainly be something if all of a sudden the Titans found themselves a quarterback.
Yeah, and look, there's been no official word that Levis has all of a sudden surpassed Malik Willis on the depth chart. You might see both of them actually behind center this weekend, varying points of that game offensively for the Titans with no Tannehill. So Will Levis likely making his NFL debut against the Falcons on Sunday. And yeah, PJ likes that one. PJ likes Tennessee in that one. The Falcons, they get the win, but man, it's not pretty. They haven't been winning pretty. It is that Arthur Smith, like, I'm content just handing the ball off constantly. The fact that they survived all of those red zone turnovers by Desmond Ridder and still got the win, pretty good. But Tennessee, PJ's pick. If you missed that, we'll get that up and on demand for you here shortly. You can always go back inside the Odyssey app and use Rewind. Go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed for the next 24 hours. Okay, next in the sports bar, we're going to welcome in for the first time Bruce Nolan, the Bruce exclusive, BuffaloRumblings.com. We always see his stuff on Twitter, on X, and I always thought, this guy's got some pretty good takes, sharp. Let's see, let's have him into the sports.
Yeah,
let's talk some.
All right, yeah, like we're gonna let him run wild here because obviously, there's Bills takes aplenty here, and how do you fix it? I think that's what Bills fans want to know here.
Yeah, so we'll get into that with Bruce Nolan next here in the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester Fools.
Sports Update.
Hockey night tonight in the Flower City as the Amerks hosting the Charlotte Checkers. Down on a conditioning assignment from Buffalo, Matthew Savoy. Savoy, he wants to get after it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it's been a while since my last game, and even that was the Prospects game. So this is kind of my first game of this season, and I'm excited. It's been a while, so I'm just ready to get going here.
Don Stevens has the call tonight beginning at 7 here on The Fan. To the Buffalo Bills, Ed Oliver questionable for tomorrow. Out are Quentin Morris and Balin Spector, as well as Dawson Knox. Our pregame coverage tomorrow begins at 4 o'clock here on The Fan Rochester. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills football coming up next. Bruce Nolan will be our guest. One note in the NFL 49er quarterback Brock Purdy, he is in the concussion protocol. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I am, and we're looking forward to this. I mean, it is a short week, and it makes it awfully hard, in particular on the players, to make it a quick turnaround. But we're looking at this as a great opportunity. We really are. Great excitement in Western New York. The weather, as you mentioned, is outstanding. It's been outstanding this week, and nowhere better than right here, as Coach Levy said, right now. So let's get it going this Thursday night.
Here's Buffalo Bills head coach, excited for the opportunity. Thursday night football tomorrow night, and we welcome in our next guest. It's Bruce Nolan from Buffalo Rumblings, the Bruce exclusive podcast. We do a thing, Bruce, called Blame Assessment Monday, when the Bills put up a stinker like they did on Sunday in Foxborough. And one of our regulars, Rick, reached out to us and said, you know what, you really need to have Bruce on to teach us about the plurality pie. Bruce, welcome into the Sports Bar, your inaugural visit. Please tell us about the plurality pie.
So plurality pie originated out of the idea that there is never one answer for a win or a loss. As much as we'd like to make it believe and make ourselves believe that there is one particular answer, there's usually multiple factors, and it usually arises out of the idea that we think wins and losses are a quarterback stat, which is an idea that I have railed against for many, many years. But plurality pie is essentially a divvied up version of Blame Assessment Monday, where I can, after a win or a loss, I can cut pieces of a pie and say, well, this person I think had this amount of impact, this person had this amount of impact. And when you do that, regardless of whether you get particular with the percentages or not, it reinforces as a weekly thought exercise the idea that there's an ultimate team sport involved when you're talking about football. And that we really need to get out of the mindset of saying, well, if it wasn't for this one thing, the game would have ended different, because there are, over 100 plays in every single football game, each one of which, if gone differently, could have impacted the outcome. And so plurality pie is based around that idea.
Well, I guess we can kind of go back over the Jags loss if we want to, or the narrow Giants win, or what happened last week. I think fans want to know, Bruce, how do you fix this moving forward? And if we're going to go with the biggest part of the pie here, in my opinion, I'm going to start here with McDermott. And my question is this here. Has, going even back to week one, has he overcorrected to the point when he talks about complementary football? Has he actually neutered this offense that he's so concerned about turnovers and whatnot, or whatever failings he may see in his own defense here, that he's actually preventing, in a way, the offense from doing what they need to do here, and that's attack downfield?
I think neutered is too strong of a term, but I think that there are pretty notable differences when you dive into specifically play calling tendencies and things like the Bills are behind pace when it comes to neutral pass rate, which is how often you pass the ball in circumstances where the game script is not out of hand. You are not winning by a lot or losing by a lot late in games, which has a tendency to skew it. What you're trying to do when you identify neutral pass rate is you're trying to identify what is the plan when the plan isn't being acted upon by some sort of outside force as far as game script goes. And the Bills are behind in neutral pass rate this year, depending on where they have been. And when you dive in further in play calling tendencies, when you talk about pass rate over expectation, specifically, it's second and short. And second and short is a scenario where the old adage is actually one of those things where a lot of these times these myths, like, well, you got to run the ball and stop the run, and defense wins championships. A lot of these things don't actually end up being true. But one of the old adages, which is the best time to take a shot play is second and short, that one actually does hold up. And what you've seen from the Buffalo Bills this year is they've been much more willing to just run the ball, try and get the first down on second and short than previous years where they were taking shots down the field. They were trying to get those big plays. And so that's one of the biggest things that has been a shift in mentality. So while I'm not willing to go as far as to say neutering, I think we have a significant sample size enough to know that there has been at least a semi-mind shift that I would very much like to see corrected when it comes to offensive play calling tendencies.
Yeah, and Bruce, we know you're tight with Nate Gary. He's one of our favorites here in the sports bar as well. He did a great job pointing out just the lack of creativity there on second and 5 or less, and the Bills getting first downs, but not taking those deep downfield shots. We've also spent a lot of time just kind of wondering like what's going on inside the mind of Josh Allen, and maybe to an extent Ken Dorsey as well, when you know that there was an emphasis on self-preservation for Josh Allen. We want to make sure that he has a long career as a franchise quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, and he can't keep taking these hits, these unnecessary hits when he's escaping the pocket, when he's got a designed run play. It feels as if that's slowed his game down a little bit, and there have been times where he can clearly run downfield. He's not taking those shots. He's not for self-preservation purposes, his game feels like it's suffered. Are you seeing the same thing?
I am. I think that if you look at just as simple of a stat as carries per game, it's almost half of what you have historically expected from Josh Allen. And part of me makes it wonder if it's, I know that the designed run thing is certainly a concerted effort on behalf of Ken Dorsey and Sean McDermott, but the scrambling is different. And if you think about week one, if you go all the way back to week one, and we saw a very wild version of Josh Allen, but not necessarily a good wild version because of the turnovers and the refusal to take the profits when they were there in the pass game. And you wonder, after how badly that went and how he reacted at the podium post-week one, you wonder if he's overcorrected a little bit. He talked a lot this week about low positive mindset and trying to stay a little bit calm, and you do wonder if he's overcorrected. So part of this, from a designed run standpoint, I think is part of the plan. And then the other part of this, it's impossible to divide up if you were to divide up a plurality pie for this, it'd be impossible to tell how much of this is Josh and how much of this is Sean McDermott, because we saw Sean McDermott on week one screaming at Josh Allen, be smart, be smart, when he tried to jump over two people when he was 5 yards short of the goal line. Sorry, 5 yards short of the first down marker. So you know that it's in him, but you wonder if there's been an overcorrection, and you add to that the shoulder injury. So the last 2 weeks, now we're dealing with the potential shoulder injury, so that changes things. And so when you're trying to divide up the why between play calling, specific design, Josh Allen's mindset, and a shoulder injury, it gets really muddy as far as isolating the specific why, because all three of those things could be at play in differing amounts.
Bruce Nolan is our guest. There's another piece of the pie that I want to kind of explore with you, and that's actually personnel. And Bruce, it was about this time last week, we were joined by Maggie Gray, who was on WFAN, now CBS Sports Radio in the mornings, and she's actually a great person to have on because she's a Bills fan, and she has her husband's from Rochester. And one of her points last week was that this Bills offense misses the slot receiver, that they haven't had somebody since Beasley and McKenzie for a little bit here. Is that an important piece? Should the Bills try to develop a Sherfield or maybe a Kincaid in this regard?
I think it matters. I think it matters a lot because it allows Josh Allen to get to that read earlier, because one of the things you've noticed with Josh Allen, he does have a tendency to hang on to his reads early in the progression a little bit longer than potentially he should, and most of the time that's because of pressure. But if you look at 2020 and the way Josh Allen responds to pressure, it's, well, I know exactly where Cole Beasley is going to be, and I'm completely fine taking the profits with Cole Beasley. And if they decide to bring pressure, that's fine, but I have a hot route that can get me 8-9 yards, and we're going to kill you that way if we have to. And I think trying to develop that underneath target, I hope it's Dalton Kincaid, to be able to do that is valuable because it allows Josh Allen to know that I don't have to hang on to this Stephon Diggs read. I can go through because I trust what the second read is. I trust what the hot route is. I trust what my pressure look is. I trust what it's going to be versus zone versus what it's going to be versus man, because that changes the progressions. And so I think having a secondary receiver that Josh Allen feels comfortable with will allow him to not necessarily hang on to those early progressions the way that we would prefer that he not against pressure. I don't think it has to be a slot wide receiver per se. It just has to be somebody. And so for me, I'm looking at Dalton Kincaid as being that guy. I think when you saw the way that the Buffalo Bills reacted when they drafted him and the way they described him, I think that ability to control the middle of the field, that ability to be that release, the ability to be the safety valve, and I don't mean that as far as just chip and outlet. I mean as far as being that hot route versus pressure and being that zone beater and trusting that he's going to be where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there, I think it's really, really important. The difference between having one target you trust and two is a very, very big deal for this offense.
Bruce Nolan, the Bruce exclusive. Buffalo Rumblings, our guest in the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia on the Fan, Rochester. I want to shift to the defensive side of the ball because injuries are well documented. You really get to a sense of just how much Matt Milano, Daquan Jones, and Trey White are missed as the Bills' defense just doesn't quite look the same. I want to focus in specifically on the guy that was drafted to potentially be the next Matt Milano and Dorian Williams. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on how he's been developed up to this point, because it feels like they're yo-yoing him a little bit. He's in there for part of the game, and then Tyrel Dodson steps up. And boy, I don't know. Have you seen anything from Dorian Williams in terms of his play that justifies the yanking of, and the benching of him for the second half of the Patriots game in favor of Tyrel Dodson? And do you think we see more opportunity for Dorian Williams here against Tampa Bay tomorrow night?
I think Dorian Williams played to his scouting reports so far. And so the people who study Dorian Williams coming out, I think had some concerns about his ability to play Mike in the NFL, and it had nothing to do with his size. A lot of people had the size narrative kind of on their lips when they said, well, play in the middle, hey, he's big enough to play in the middle. It's never been about size, it's about processing. And what the Patriots did was they threw a lot of motion, they threw a lot of shifts at Dorian Williams, they put his eyes in the wrong places, and the misdirection got him a couple times. He got. And I think when you ask Dorian Williams to see ball, get ball, and you ask him specifically to run and chase, I think he's an effective linebacker who can make some plays. He plays fast. He plays physical. I think he's good in coverage. But I think when you start to throw a lot of eye candy at that position, I think you have an opportunity as an offense to open up some gaps in the run game and in the quick pass game. And I think that's what got him against the Patriots. And I think that a lot of those things were alleviated when Tyrel Dodson came in there. And I think it's going to be a part of the learning process. I don't think that anyone who watched Dorian Williams coming out of college is surprised by the fact that, okay, maybe his eyes were in the wrong spot a couple times, but when he has a runway to go on and he pulls the trigger and comes downhill, he plays fast, he plays physical, we're really happy with that. But as far as the processing side go, he looked like a rookie. He looked like the person who needed more reps there. And so it's going to be a matter of appetite and tolerance when it comes to, are we willing as a defensive staff to let him be out there and make those mistakes and have an offense take advantage of those things and just say, we're just going to play through it? Or when we start to see some of those things, are we going to pull him off the field for Tyrel Dodson, get him in the film room on Monday and go, okay, now, do you see what they're doing to you here? And try and teach him that way. And so Sean McDermott made a call. I do think that it helped a little bit when Tyrel Dodson came in there from that specific aspect, but it's going to have to be a storyline moving forward when it comes to Dorian Williams' play on the field.
Bruce Nolan is our guest, bringing it here in the sports bar. So Tuesday, coming up next week, regardless whatever happens coming up tomorrow night, it is the NFL trade deadline. And you go back 2 weeks, people were saying, hey, you may need a corner or you need a wide receiver. And I would listen to, you need a linebacker. So I guess I'll ask you a two-part question. I mean, what would you like to see the Buffalo Bills do or Brandon Beede do next Tuesday? Or what should actually be the expectation here, Bruce? Or are they the same here?
I think that if the last couple of years have taught us anything, it's that he will go sniffing around. Brandon Beede will go sniffing around for any values he can get. I think that when you ask me personally what I'd like to see, I would like to see a linebacker for exactly the reason you said. I think that I was concerned about linebacker when I came into this year, and then Terrell Bernard has played absolutely great, has alleviated a lot of those concerns. You lose Matt Milano in a particularly bad time. I think if you lost Matt Milano late in the year after Dorian Williams had some development, maybe you feel a little differently about this. But the name that keeps popping up for me is Josie Jewell from the Denver Broncos. I think the Denver Broncos have been said, hey, we're willing to listen on specifically these players. Unfortunately, I don't think Patrick Surtain is one of those players. As much as I love Patrick Surtain, I think that it would take a very meaningful offer to pry him away from the Denver Broncos. But I think that a player like Josie Jewell who can come in, I think solidify that linebacker spot, I think would help if the Buffalo Bills feel like he would be able to catch on quickly and be able to play in their system. I think that the other thing you got to look at is one-tech defensive tackle. I think that if you watch the game against the Patriots, I think we're not surprised that losing both of your defensive tackles made the Buffalo Bills weak against the middle. But I think that if your options are you're clamoring for Eli Ankou, I think that I was very, very pleased. And the fact that I was very, very pleased to see the Buffalo Bills bring back Eli Ankou probably tells you what you need to know about the addition of a one-tech defensive tackle of this team, because you cannot ask Tim Settle or Jordan Phillips to anchor against double teams consistently in the run game, especially against a gap scheme, and really hold up. And so if there's a one tech out there, I'll take it. I have scoured the trade targets and haven't found a lot that really pop out to me, but I'm going to continue to do so because that's an area of concern for me.
Bruce, really enjoyed our time this afternoon. Glad you made it into the sports bar. Wanted to make sure you had some time to tell everybody where they can get more of the work that you're doing covering the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Bruce Exclusive. My show, The Bruce Exclusive, drops every Thursday on the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network, and I do write as well for BuffaloRumblings.com.
All right, so one follow-up question here, and I call it the Gus Frerotte rule in our show because one time, you remember Gus Frerotte played quarterback, and, well, you're going to have Gus Frerotte on the show, and he was promoting a podcast. You got to ask him about headbutting the wall, right? And so in that contest, it's the only time I'm going to ever ask it. Has the real Bruce Nolan ever actually reached out to you here, Bruce?
The real Bruce Nolan has never actually reached out to me, no. I have never gotten a phone call from Jim Carrey asking me about having a discussion about using one of his fictionalized characters. I never really expected it to be something that would matter from all those years ago when I needed a username for a Buffalo Bills message board. And then here we are, years and years later. It's still the identity has held up all this time. But no phone calls so far.
Well, you make a lot of great points, Bruce. We appreciate your time and your coverage of the team is fantastic. We'll continue to check it out online and look forward to talking to you again real soon, bud.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me.
You got it. There he is. Bruce Nolan joining us in the sports bar. Sounded like he was mobile. We appreciate him carving out some time out of his day to stop by and share his thoughts on the Buffalo Bills.
He was great.
Smart guy.
Yeah.
Speaking of smart guys, Scott Reynolds, Pewter Report. He's going to join us next. We'll get the Bucks side of things here as we continue to prepare for tomorrow night. Bills-Bucks here on the Fan. Rochester pregame coverage tomorrow afternoon starts at 4 o'clock. We'll have Scott Reynolds on with us next here on the Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every
Sports, the Fan, Rochester.
Enjoyed the time we spent with him, and obviously we went first overall. He's had a great career in college, and he plays with a lot of energy and seems like a good leader. I've never obviously been on a team with him, but seems like a good leader.
Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott sharing a little love for Baker Mayfield. Is Baker Mayfield having a renaissance in Tampa Bay, or is Baker Mayfield set to come back down to earth? Let's go to Tampa. And let's talk to our buddy Scott Reynolds of the Pewter Report, who joins us now in advance of tomorrow night's Thursday night game on Prime. Scott, always great having you here in the sports bar. Tell us a little bit about how the season has gone thus far with Baker Mayfield behind center.
I think pretty much according to script, this is a transition year for the Buccaneers, right? Obviously, Tom Brady's retired, and they brought in Baker Mayfield for a one-year look-see to see if he can resuscitate his career and be the face of a franchise again, or if he is destined to follow the likes of, the Andy Daltons, the Jameis Winstons, the Marcus Mariotas, where you're just kind of a career backup after getting, a couple shots at being the starter. Mitch Trubisky also in that category. Baker's got off to a pretty good start. The team was 3-1 before the bye week. Then they faced two pretty good teams back-to-back, especially stopping the run in the Detroit Lions and Atlanta Falcons. It's made Baker Mayfield have to throw the ball a little bit more to win. The Bucs have struggled to run the ball, so there's not much balance. And as a result, Baker Mayfield has an interception in each of his last 4 games. And we've seen a great performance by Baker Mayfield against the Saints, 3 touchdowns, leading them to a 26-9 win. We've seen a good Baker Mayfield first 2 weeks of the season. Minnesota and Chicago, those games, he had touchdown passes and no interceptions. But then we've seen kind of like average Baker the last couple of weeks, where there have not been as many great plays as there are overthrows, underthrows, interceptions to offset the misfires. And as a result, the Buccaneers just have not had enough firepower to win. So the one Baker we haven't seen that the Bucs cannot afford to see tomorrow night is multiple interception Baker. They hope that guy stayed in Cleveland, because if that happens, there's no chance for a Buccaneer win.
Yeah, despite losing their last 2, Scott, you're only a half game out of first place, Tampa Bay. I mean, are the expectations raised there in Tampa? Because I look at that division like, why not the Buccaneers?
Yeah, I think the division's still there for the taking. It came down to Week 17 last year when the Bucs beat the Panthers and then ultimately lost it in the last game of the season at Atlanta. They had a halftime lead, and their playoff position wasn't going to change. They decided to rest their starters. The Falcons came back to win. They finished 8-9, but they were probably a 9-8 team. I think Tampa Bay is kind of the same 8-win, 9-win team this year, and with some new pieces in there and a new offense with Dave Canales that has gone through some growing pains. I think the NFC South is still one of the more downtrodden divisions in the league, and I wouldn't be surprised if 9-8 wins the division this year. It might be Atlanta. It might be Tampa Bay. I think it's one of those two teams right now. The Falcons have the edge. The Bucs will probably have to go to Atlanta later in the year and steal a win to really kind of have a chance at reclaiming the division title for a third straight year. But yeah, it's kind of a rough and tumble division. I think every team's kind of in it except for the Panthers. But I think Tampa Bay, they have a chance at 9 wins this year if they can, get their offense to get the ball in the end zone. They struggle mightily in the red zone.
Scott, tell us a little bit about the health of the Bucs coming into this game. We know that Godwin apparently is good to go. Vita Vea appears to be a game-time decision. I wanted to check in on the health of Mike Evans. I know he was dinged up earlier this year. Overall, how's Tampa Bay's health coming into tomorrow night?
I think pretty good. The only player that they're really going to miss is Matt Filer, their starting left guard. But, he has not really been playing that well to begin with, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Buccaneers actually get a little bit of more of an upgrade of the position with Aaron Stinney as opposed to Matt Filer is a younger player. He's in a contract year. He wants to, he's a backup. I think he's going to come in and probably play a little bit over his ability, just because this is maybe his one shot at getting some playing time this year. And if he plays well, maybe they make a change, just because Filer has been a little, average at best at left guard. Vita Vea is probably the biggest concern for the Buccaneers with that groin injury. He did not practice this week. It's a short week. I think if the game were on Sunday, he would be more likely to play, but it will truly be a game-time decision. And they need him because they just got Kalijah Kancey back a couple weeks ago, and that's a nice 1-2 punch inside at defensive tackle for Tampa Bay. Both those guys, former first-round picks. Kalijah Kancey, the rookie, has a sack and a half in just the last 2 games, and he missed a good chunk of the season with the calf injury that happened in training camp that caused him to miss the entire preseason. Vita Vea is still the leading sacker with 3.5 sacks. So the Bucs' chances for winning improve if Vita Vea is playing.
I'm going to go off the board here. Just ask you about Sean Tucker, who played his football down the road here at Syracuse. How is his rookie year been going there? We saw him a little bit at the beginning, but where he is right now in the depth chart, how has it been going for him?
You know, for some reason, I can't put my finger on it. I've tried to ask some questions, and I'm not getting some really good answers. This team, for some reason, decides to put Keyshawn Vaughn, who's in a contract year, former third-round pick, who really has done nothing in Tampa Bay in 4 years. I mean, just nothing. And if you look at him statistically this year, I think he's averaging 1.7, maybe 1.8 yards per carry. He's a tackle for loss waiting to happen. The Bucs can't run the ball very well to begin with. And this is a guy that doesn't have the speed or the burst to accelerate through the few holes that there are or break tackles and get yards after contact. So, to me, every carry that he gets is a wasted down. In my opinion, I'd rather see Sean Tucker. Yeah, he's not lighting the world up. He has a 1.5-yard average, but it's a very small sample size. There's a lot of hype about this guy, and he earned the number 2 running back job by leading the Bucs with rushing yards in the preseason, but for some reason it's fallen out of favor. I don't know if it's pass protection issues because he is a rookie or what it is, but I'd like to see more of Sean Tucker, or at least not give the ball to Keyshawn Vaughn, because it's kind of a non-starter when he gets a carry.
Scott, if you were Ken Dorsey, how would you attack this Tampa Bay defense tomorrow night?
Find Devin White and target him. In the passing game, in the running game, Devin White has had a horrible game against the Atlanta Falcons. And it's a shame because this is a guy that held out in the offseason wanting a contract. He thinks he's worth Roquan Smith money. He's delusional. He is not that good of a linebacker. And I think the Pro Football Focus grades are spot on. They kind of reflect that. He's an athlete playing football. He's not a very instinctive football player. And you look at the guy next to him, the ageless wonder, Levante David, 13 tackles last week at age 33. Levante still getting it done, having a great season this year. Had a great game against the Lions the week before that. But here's the thing. The Atlanta Falcons ran the ball 38 times for 156 yards. And the middle linebacker of this team, Devin White, had 5 tackles. The strong safety behind him had 10. The cornerback, Jamel Dean, had 10. Of course, Levante, as I said, had 13. Something's wrong with this picture. You as the middle linebacker should be making more than 5 tackles. And his play has been soft, so whether it is targeting him in zone coverage, targeting him in man coverage, or running the ball right at him, that's what I would do. I would go right at Devin White because he is really letting himself down in a contract year.
Yeah, we're talking to Scott Reynolds from the Pewter Report. I remember talking to you over the summer here, Scott, before we ask you, for your pick on the game tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. Just the future at quarterback here, because, I mean, you have a deal here in Baker Mayfield if he ends up leading the playoffs 1 year, $4 million, but I don't know, is that going to be the long-term play? Do you tag him? Are you in a draft that's full of quarterbacks? Are you going down that road? I mean, how do you see these options kind of playing out here for the front office, who right now really it's up in the air who's going to be your quarterback in 2024?
Oh, it really is. I mean, it's still way too early to make that determination. You kind of felt good about Baker through that 3-1 start when he had 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, but now the touchdowns have kind of slowed down. The interceptions have remained steady at 1 in each of his last 4 games. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I think it's going to come down to 3 things. Number 1, can he get the Bucs into the playoffs? That probably has to happen as a division winner, maybe with 9 wins. I don't know, maybe 9-8 gets the Buccaneers into the playoffs as a wild card if the Falcons are at 10 wins. That was the case last year with the Seattle Seahawks getting in as the last wild card at 9-8. So can he get you in the playoffs? Number 2, how many wins does he help you manufacture, right? Is it 9? Is it 10? Is it 8? And you just missed the playoffs, right? And then number 3 is the interceptions. That's what really got him run out of the Cleveland Browns organization. He's thrown more interceptions since entering the league in 2018 than anybody else. And while we have yet to see that multiple interception game, that meltdown game from Baker Mayfield, of course, the Bucs hope that stayed at Cleveland with that version of Baker Mayfield. There has to be kind of a healthy touchdown-interception ratio, I think, for Baker to really warrant that, that kind of long-term commitment, kind of like what the Seahawks did with Geno Smith. So this is really going to probably come down to the wire for Baker Mayfield and see how he plays, and if he can get this team into the postseason, and if he can get him a winning record. I think there's a long way to go before they make that determination. You're right. This is a very deep quarterback draft coming up. It's a mega quarterback draft, as a matter of fact. Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus, one of my good friends, said there will be 20 quarterbacks drafted this year, probably 12 by the end of day 2. That's an astonishing number. There were 14 drafted altogether last year, most of them on day 3. So if you have 12 in the first 3 rounds, that's something. And no matter where Tampa Bay ends up picking, they're probably not going to get Caleb Williams or Drake May, but there's a chance they could get a pretty good quarterback in the middle of the first round if they end up picking there, or maybe even the second round. So even if Baker Mayfield just kind of gets them into the playoffs as a wild card team, 9 wins, doesn't really go to the Pro Bowl or have that type of season, I wouldn't preclude this team from drafting another quarterback to throw into the mix with Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield just to hedge their bets.
It's a matchup between two teams that feel like their seasons have gone very similarly. They're both in the final. If the season were to end today, which it doesn't, they would both be the last team in the AFC and in the NFC for the postseason. Scott, before we let you go, I want to make sure we get your prediction as far as which direction you're leaning here for tomorrow night's action in Orchard Park.
I think a lot of things have to go right for the Buccaneers to win. They've got to win the turnover margin and not 3-2 like they did last week. That wasn't good enough. They'd have to win the turnover margin something like 3-0 like they did in Minnesota on the road in week 1. And still, that only allowed them to win by 3 points. That's how slim the margin of error is for this Buccaneer team, especially in offense where it's just hard to score points in the red zone. So for Tampa Bay to win, they have to be able to run the ball. Maybe there's some opportunities against the 23rd ranked rushing defense. But for Tampa Bay to have a chance of winning, I think 110 yards on the ground, probably 3 takeaways, really forcing some big-time errors from Josh Allen, and then an offense that finally has to find the end zone. The good news for Tampa Bay, they scored 20 points and 26 points in their 2 road wins. They've really struggled to put touchdowns on the board at home where they're 1-3 this year. So maybe they've got a little bit of road mojo. I don't know. I don't see how I can pick the Buccaneers just looking at this matchup on paper here. Everything seems to favor the Bills. They can score into the 20s. Josh Allen's better than Baker Mayfield. They have the home field advantage. I like Buffalo to win this game probably by 8 or 9 points. I think probably right around that 8.5 line sounds pretty good to me.
Scott, you mentioned the Bucs at home. We saw something we haven't seen in a while. The Creamsicles made their return against Detroit. Yeah. You didn't get the outcome that you wanted. It was almost like the Creamsicles brought them back to 1976, and they played like it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt. Matter of fact, Tampa Bay is now 1-4 in the throwback Creamsicles. This is the 5th time since burying Bucko Bruce in 1996 and going with the red and pewter in the red flag in 1997. This is the 5th time that they've brought back those throwback jerseys. First time in about a decade. But from 2009 to 2012, that first little throwback era, they were only 1-3, so now they're 1-4. And yes, living up to those lovable losers in orange and white from back in the day. Tampa Bay does not fare well in the creamsicle jerseys.
No, there's speculation because we've heard the creamsicles coming back there for a long time, and in fact, it was supposed to be like a year ago. The speculation that Tom Brady killed it. Is that true?
No, it wasn't Tom Brady. Actually, he wanted to play in the creamsicles really bad. He loved the creamsicle jerseys. It was really a Nike issue that Nike didn't have their act together in terms of, that orange thread's hard to find, guys. It's a unique color, and to be able to get all of those, the Nike product for that game, it was a manufacturing issue with Nike. And of course, this was kind of coming off the heels of COVID, right, in 2022. So they had some distribution and some manufacturing issues. It was a disappointment because last year was the first year that teams could wear some throwback alternate helmets, right? That was the helmet rule that nixed the throwback jerseys for the Buccaneers because they'd gone from white helmets to pewter helmets, right? So last year was the year that changed, and you did see Patriot Pete return, right, for the Patriots, and but you didn't see it for the Buccaneers because of that orange thread, apparently.
Scott, you're always gracious to join us with your time here to join us in the sports bar, and you do a great job at Pewter Report, which is more, in my opinion, more than just coverage of the Bucs.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about Pewter Report and where we can get more of your work.
Well, I tell you, even Bills fans will love us in the off season because we do a ton of draft profiles. It's skewed towards the Buccaneers, but if you want, to hone in on the draft and free agency, we do kind of cover the NFL a little bit more as a whole in the off season. That's on PewterReport.com, and we've got a couple Bucs Bills previews up there. If you want to read it from our perspective, check out the previews on PewterReport.com today and tomorrow, and then also you can follow us on X and Facebook and Instagram at Pewter Report.
Scott, we'll be watching the game tomorrow night. Really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Got it. Scott Reynolds, Pewter Report, stopping by the sports bar to give us the Tampa Bay side of things before tomorrow's matchup.
Does that make Bills fans a little more calmer, knowing that there is the Buccaneer writer that says this should be Buffalo's game?
Should be, but I go into this game thinking that these teams are kind of very, very similar in terms of what they might end up being by the end of the season. At the end of the regular season, I think both of these teams are kind of like what he's describing, 9-10 win teams.
Yeah, I mean, the Buccaneers could end up as a 4 seed out there.
Right. If they win that division, that division is it's pretty soft. That was great, and I'm glad we were able to cram in both a Bills perspective and a Bucs perspective here in the last 60 minutes. If you're just joining us, welcome into the sports bar. If you're listening in the Odyssey app, rewind, let you go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed for the next 72 hours, and we'll be sure to get all of our guest appearances and all of our shows up for you and online, on demand, podcast form, wherever you get your shows. Just search out the sports bar, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and the free to download Odyssey app. Happy hour is upon us. We are super late, but it's worth it. We'll get to a round of shots coming up here in a little bit. And we have time for your calls if you want to join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. 866-4FAN is that number. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub. The new location, 135 West Commercial Street in ER. GoodSmokeBBQ.com.
I'm Erin Hawksworth.
Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Rochester Americans back home tonight, taking on the Charlotte Checkers. Down on a conditioning assignment is Matthew Savoy. Head coach Seth Appert says it's good to have him back.
I think what always stands out for me with Matt is his competitiveness and his pace of play. He plays fast and he competes and he stays on the puck. He then dictates the play. He's a play driving type of player because of how much he stays on the puck.
Don Stevens will have the call tonight beginning at 7 o'clock to the Buffalo Bills. We're Ed Oliver. Question mark for tomorrow night. Out for this game, Quentin Morris and Balin Spector, as well as Dawson Knox. Our pregame coverage of Buffalo Bills football begins at 4 o'clock tomorrow. One other note from the NFL 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy. He is in the concussion protocol. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Mike Danger.
There's a segment of Bills Mafia right now that has already pressed the panic button. And there's another segment, and I'm in this segment, that I believe that the Bills just are this, that they are not a team that's going to be the dominant team that we've seen from time to time. I think they're a 10-win team.
Gene Battaglia.
I think this is not a good job by McDermott coaching. If I hear complimentary football one more time.
Complimentary football.
You only talk about complimentary football when you're going up against a superior opponent.
I'm picking them to lose this week.
Touchdown, Tampa Bay!
They're a really good football team.
The worst case scenario for Rob Manfred for Major League Baseball if you had a Texas-Arizona World Series.
And the 2023 Arizona Diamondbacks are headed to the World Series.
There is a James Harden update as the Sixers get set to open their season.
Sabres 6, Senators 4.
And they're going to drop the gloves. Kachuk and Alex Tuck.
Amerks Hockey.
Matt Savoy getting his first game as the Amerks take on Charlotte.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Well, better late than never as happy hour gets underway in the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Look, we had a busy 4 o'clock hour. We had to shuffle some things around. We wanted to make sure we got Scott Reynolds in, and we did. We got Reynolds on, and he was great as he always is. Also great, Bruce Nolan from Buffalo Rumblings and the Bruce exclusive, making his first visit into the sports bar, and he didn't disappoint either. That was some great stuff in the 4 o'clock hour.
Yeah, and when we're talking about, what could the Buffalo Bills look for at the trade deadline, he agrees with us here. Maybe linebacker might be the position here, where Dorian Williams, he could be good at some point, but what Bruce kind of explained was like Belichick, Bill O'Brien did a number on him there with the motion and the misdirection and everything last week.
Yeah, he still has a lot to learn, and he was kind of exposed a bit by far veteran coaches that know how to make the most out of a situation with a rookie. That was all great stuff, and again, we'll have that for you on demand wherever you get your shows. You can just search out the Sports Bar and find all of our guest appearances, all of our shows broken down hour by hour for you there. As well, tomorrow it is Bills Bucks, 4 o'clock. Our pregame coverage gets underway. It's an abbreviated sports bar tomorrow afternoon, but we will be joined by Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy to help set your Week 8 fantasy football lineups. Andy joins us every Thursday afternoon starting at 3:25.
So the Bills right now have just one healthy tight end on the roster right now, that being Dalton Kincaid. We already know Dawson Knox is not available. The Bills have not done anything with that roster spot. They don't need to, technically. You don't know how long that recovery is going to be. They're kind of being quiet on it, but we do know that Quentin Morris is out. So who is Joel Wilson? Well, Joel Wilson, undrafted out of Central Michigan. He was with the Saints a little bit as well. So actually signed with the Saints and then jumped in with Buffalo. And I don't remember him at all during training camp, but that's somebody that you might see on the field tomorrow night. Be like, who's that? Well, that might be your tight end number 2 tomorrow night. They've yet to elevate him. They can do that tomorrow.
And there was another move that the Bills made kind of under the radar, under the radar to me. As soon as I saw that he was being released by Atlanta, I'm like, well, the clock is ticking. When is Eli Ankou coming back to the Bills practice squad?
Yeah, and Ryan Talbot, it was about this time yesterday, reported that. And so that became official today that Eli Ankou is back on. And actually, when we're joined by Bruce Nolan, he loves that move. Like, you need good one technique tackles here where it's not really Jordan Phillips. It's really not. The Bills are missing Daquan Jones. So could you actually put Eli Ankou and elevate him right off the bat? It wouldn't surprise me either. We see him out there.
Yeah, they've used him in the past, and he's had some success with this Bills defense, so that wouldn't surprise me either. But Joel Wilson, as of right now, still on the team's practice squad, hasn't appeared in a regular season game. I struggle to believe that they'll go in with just Dalton Kincaid at tight end, or maybe they just use Reggie Gilliam as kind of like that slash. He's fullback slash tight end. He can kind of do everything.
Yeah, when we're joined by Scott Reynolds, the one thing you asked the question, okay, if you're Ken Dorsey, what do you do? Go at Devin White. Like, what? I guess he's not having a strong year here, maybe a little past his prime for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and also Vita Vea could be a game-time decision tomorrow. He's got a groin injury. That would be a massive hole that the Bucs would need to fill in their defensive line. So there might be some ways to exploit that Bucs defense if you're the Bills. The Bucs will have Chris Godwin. He's been on the injury report, but he's good to go for tomorrow night. Todd Bowles said that both Vita Vea and then the groin injury to Matt Fieler, who Reynolds also pointed out, will not play. He's got a knee injury, and that might be a factor for the Bucs offensive line.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've been saying this now for a couple weeks, right? Get right game. That was jet lag from London. Well, I don't know what that was. That wasn't good against the Giants who won. Oh, they'll get right against the Patriots. Gosh, if this isn't a get right game, then point to me the one that is a get right game I guess Denver coming in on Monday night. You're not going to have many more layups for this Buffalo Bills team. And the Bills still 8.5-point favorites for this game. And is that just kind of the public just not catching on to the problems?
I mean, we'll give our predictions tomorrow, but I'll tell you where I'm leaning. That 8.5 feels like too many points.
Doesn't it?
It feels like too many points. Given how the Bills have played the last 3 weeks, I don't know that they should be over a touchdown favorite against any team in the NFL. That feels like too many points.
Yeah, there's problems on both sides of the ball.
For sure. Some other NFL news just quickly here as we kind of do a little quick whip around the NFL. I don't know if you saw this, Gino, but Deshaun Watson will miss this weekend's action, dealing with some residual swelling, according to head coach Kevin Stefanski, on that right shoulder. And that rehab here might be the best course. Who knows when we'll see Watson again this season, but you do have P.J. Walker now officially signed to the Browns' 53-man roster. He was all out of practice squad elevation, so he'll get the start against Seattle this weekend. All of that said, the Browns keep winning,
don't they? You're looking at this team and wondering if they had any quarterback play whatsoever. And the nice thing about Sunday, if you're a Bills fan, you just enjoy all this football action. This one's interesting. Cleveland at Seattle. 2 4-2 teams. 2 4-2 teams that you're like, how are they 4-2?
Yeah.
Well, from the defensive side of the ball, that's the answer for Cleveland. And Cleveland is actually getting points. Wait a second. Let me just put on my readers just to make sure that's a plus. Yeah, they're getting. Why?
Yeah.
Just because of the quarterback?
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Seattle, since you brought them up, Frank Clark might actually be returning to that team, the team that drafted him back in 2015. Seattle hosting Clark today with the hope of signing him. He played 62 games to start his career for the Seattle Seahawks.
All these games I'm talking about, I'm excited to watch on Sunday. One, I'm not. Sorry, Atlanta, Tennessee. Although, I guess we're going to be kind of curious. Will Levis will be making the start. Ryan Tannehill still dealing with an ankle injury, but does it help a young quarterback to say, hey, we're going to give you a few series, but we might sprinkle in a little Malik Willis there too?
They're just completely different players, right? Malik Willis is just such an athlete that can just do so much with his legs. Not a great thrower of the football, as we've seen. They've limited that when we've seen him on the field. But Levis can sling it. And I don't know. I mean, if the primary objective is to win, I don't think it should matter. I get the argument that you need a quarterback who gets into a rhythm, but that's not the situation they're in right now. They've got two guys that kind of complement each other. And, well, what they say is true. When you have two quarterbacks, you actually have no quarterbacks,
Yeah,
right? So that'll be, if it is indeed the debut for Will Levis, go ahead, put some mayonnaise in your coffee and sit back and enjoy that on Sunday afternoon. And then the other interesting little tidbit here from today in the NFL. It was last week that we were spending a lot of time talking about Malik Cunningham, New England, a guy that, if we were to see him against the Bills, turns out they didn't need him. Mac Jones did just fine against the Sean McDermott defense, but he was released by the Patriots today. They also released veteran defensive end Trey Flowers instead of activating him from the PUP list. So Cunningham, the undrafted free agent who signed with New England this summer, he gets released coming just a couple days after he was signed to the active roster. He was signed back on the 14th, just over a week ago. So hopefully he clears waivers for New England, returns to the Pats practice squad, what you have now behind
hopefully
Mac Jones.
I would laugh.
If
some other team claimed him.
If you're New England, you're hoping.
Yeah, if you're New England.
If you're Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Trying to be sneaky and slide one under the radar there. Bailey Zappi, Will Greer still backing up Matt Jones with Cunningham on the practice squad if he makes it there.
Interesting note here too, Danger. I don't know if you saw this, but the NFL now under a lot of criticism, rightfully so. Like you're looking at FIFA. Hey, we're going to bring in grass fields. Well, why can't NFL players? Cost. Really? We're having athletes blow out their knees. And when you went over to London, you're basically playing on a field that, the Bills said was substandard. The NFL is trying to get out in front of this in Germany. These games coming up in Frankfurt. One I'm looking forward to, Chiefs and Dolphins. The other, Patriots, Colts.
Yeah.
They're going to have what they're calling a hybrid field. Hybrid service installed last week at Deutsche Bank Park, November 5th, between the Chiefs and the Dolphins.
This is so NFL. Oh, you want grass? We're not going to give you grass. We're going to give you a surface that is probably something you've never played on before. A foreign surface, a hybrid surface.
Hybrid? What are you doing?
What is it? Partially rubber pellets, partial grass? Are you able to grow real grass in rubber pellets?
This was last year. Bruce Irvin said the field in Munich was terrible. Pete Carroll said it was slick. I mean, it was real slippery and short, said Buccaneers head coach Todd Bowles. Yeah. What does that even mean? Hybrid. It's artificial or it's not.
You're right. We're the NFL. We're going to experiment on a field. We know what you want. We're not going to give you that. We're going to go ahead and experiment and see if you blow out any more knees. Maybe somebody will break a hip on this hybrid field. Let's go.
Like what is it, like a chia pet? Like you're going to kind of sprinkle some things there and this like grass will just kind of pop up and like, all right, really, it's the rubber pellet stuff, but we're mixing in some grass here.
Well, if you can grow a chia pet, you're growing grass or sprouts on a piece of pottery. Yeah, it's a chia field. Yeah, chia field. Coming this Christmas. Look for it under your tree. Chia. It's a chia field. Thanks, NFL. Ding. Congratulations. Oh, yay. Thanks, Dad. It's a chia field. You too can blow out your ACL playing football in the backyard with chia field. Chia.
I'm glad you got that right. How many mothers got chia for the holidays? Or like, oh, thanks, kids. Just what I always wanted.
That's the CVS Christmas gift, right?
Yeah.
I was in CVS the other day, and this has to be the laziest Halloween costume ever. It's not even a costume. They sell T-shirts that say, "This is my Halloween costume." That's not even that they're selling that. By the way, there wasn't many left. So if you're the person for Halloween who's not going to dress up, which is fine. If you want to dress up, great. If not, cool, whatever. But to say this is my Halloween costume, wear a T-shirt that just says this is my Halloween costume. Tell the world you're lazy without telling the world you're lazy. My goodness.
Yeah, I'm looking this up. Ron just wrote in. Johnny Boxspring. How many times did Todd Bowles win against the Buffalo Bills? I don't know the answer to that.
When he was the Jets head coach?
Yeah, when he was the Jets head coach. I do know that the Bills killed his career in New York.
Oh, yeah.
That was Matt Barkley throwing all
Matt Barkley throwing against Todd Bowles' defensive-minded team didn't play well with the Jets peasantry. And I've always maintained I think Todd Bowles is an excellent defensive coordinator. I don't think he's a head coach. I think he's not a great head coach. And I think you're kind of seeing some of that play out. I'm glad he's getting a chance in Tampa, But let's face it. I mean, if it goes south, let's just live in my fantasy world for a little bit here. Let's say that the Bills humiliate Tampa Bay tomorrow, humiliate them on national TV. Could it be the start of a downward spiral for the organization the second half of the season? Where you really have a lot of questions. We went through them with Scott Reynolds, like, who's your quarterback next year? What is Baker Mayfield? Baker Mayfield has to get them to the playoffs to even be considered an option for 2024? Yeah, I mean, then you just gut it, right? You start over. You get a different head coach and think about who your quarterback's going to be, and you're rebuilding.
Like, nobody wanted Baker Mayfield. 1 year, $4 million is nothing for a quarterback.
God, it's crazy.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And to think that they were actually considering Kyle Trask being the starting quarterback in Tampa.
Well, he's a deliberate learner. Yeah. Deliberate learner, Kyle Trask. We've got a lot to get to in shots coming up next in the sports bar.
Yeah, as we've got the baseball matchup we're all so excited for.
You stop. I'm excited for it. I can't wait.
You are not.
I'm absolutely excited for it.
You are not. Okay, then we're going to have a daily segment, Mike Danger's baseball
I'll
review.
I'll break it down. I'll be our World Series correspondent.
Can you be our Bob Costas or Vince Scully there? Because baseball writer would love it if
I'll
we had
do
more
it.
baseball
I'll do it
content.
without all the sanctimony. Yeah, I'll be less sanctimonious, and I will deliver what I see.
We do have some other news and notes from the sport, as just like the NFL. That while the playoffs are going on, other teams are hiring GMs and head coaches. We've got that going on in baseball. We have the NBA starting up here, and I'll give it to ESPN. Not only did they pull that off last night there with the Frozen Frenzy, they actually introduced a new Sports Center commercial. I think it's pretty clever.
Oh. I missed that.
You missed this. Okay.
I must have missed it. Yeah. I was too fixated on their interview with NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman. Guys, I hope our fans are having as much fun as you are. This is a spectacular event. We love events at the NHL. You guys are doing a fantastic job. I never know how Bettman became Roz from Monsters.
Well, he does have that sort of Nashville. You have been awesome.
Yeah, you're an amazing hockey city.
Nashville, you have been awesome. Music City is clearly a hockey city. How about congratulating your Predators and the Penguins on a great Stanley Cup final?
Yeah. That's an all-timer. That is an all-timer.
But now they don't even roll him out. That's the disappointing thing.
Smart. It's actually smart.
Okay, can we get Rob Manfred in Texas this year? Because you have a game 6 or 7 coming up in Arlington. Remember, they haven't been in the World Series since 2011. No. They hosted the 2020 World Series. You remember how that went?
Yeah, the 2020 World Series, Manfred was just crushed.
He was blindsided. Didn't know, what people love me.
He thought people loved me. I brought back America's pastime during a global pandemic.
2020 is going to be remembered.
He didn't know what to do. Deer in the headlights. Oh, and then that guy claps him out.
2020 is going to be remembered as a baseball season like no other. Our clubs, and especially our players, were presented with an array of unique challenges.
2020.
I gain respect for Dallas sports fan. Yes, that's what you do. Mm-hmm. When sanctimonious commissioner wants to give up and give his thoughts, get out of here with that.
That was great.
Hand the trophy over.
We'll get to a round of shots next. We still have time for your calls as well. Last call coming up before 6 o'clock. You can join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That's 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. Danger and Battaglia in the sports bar on 95.7 and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey has
update.
Hockey night tonight in the Flower City. The Charlotte Checkers coming to the Blue Cross Arena. Down on a conditioning assignment from Buffalo is Matthew Savoy. He wants to get after it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it's been a while since my last game, and even that was the Prospects game. So this is kind of my first game of this season, and I'm excited. It's been a while, so I'm just ready to get going here.
Don Stevens has the call tonight beginning at 7 here on The Fan. To the Buffalo Bills, Ed Oliver, questionable for tomorrow night's game against the Buccaneers. Out for this game, tight end Quentin Morris, along with Dawson Knox and linebacker Balin Spector. Our pregame coverage tomorrow here on The Fan will begin at 4 o'clock. One note from the NFL, 49er quarterback Brock Purdy is in the concussion protocol. The Niners this week host the Bengals. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Got a smart speaker at home? Listen to the sports leader, The Fan Rochester at home, by asking it to play 95.7 The Fan.
All right, it's time for a round of shots in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Yeah, Buffalo entered the third period last night with a 5-1 lead at Ottawa, 30 seconds to go. And it was 5-4. Oops. And the Sabres were shorthanded, and Ottawa pulled the goalie. But then the puck bounces Buffalo's way, 6-4 the final. UPL getting the win. A little shaky down the stretch, but it's all okay. Tuck with the Gordie Howe hat trick.
Yeah.
Didn't look too good on the
I mean, it looked like Kachuk got the best of him.
Yeah.
Look, it was in the NHL. Sometimes you need the bounces to go your way. They didn't go in on Monday night against Montreal. Last night they did. The good thing is consistently they're getting their chances game in and game out. At least the last couple of games, they've really, really been peppering the net with pucks. So if that continues here, I think what we envision this Sabres team to look like this year actually becomes realized.
So they're down in New Jersey on Friday night, and then with the Bills being off on Sunday, would you consider going out there? 1 o'clock Sunday against Colorado in Buffalo.
Colorado's a fun team, man. They're good again, and that would be an opportunity to see a team that could be winning the Stanley Cup when we get to next spring.
Yeah, afternoon hockey in Buffalo just hits a little different.
For sure.
This would be a first in baseball. It's neither Texas or Arizona, or should it be Texas nor Arizona? Regardless, has ever won the World Series. The two meet up game 1 on Friday. The Diamondbacks shocked the world, winning in Philadelphia game 6 and game 7. Game 7, 4-2 was the final. Really, for the Phillies, they had their chances in this game. They went 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position in game 7. That was the 5th worst batting average and a winner to take all games since 1990.
All right, and you mentioned before we jumped on today, too, that the Phillies bullpen was...
Craig Kimbrell, both you had a chance to lock this down in game 3 or game 4. If you take one of those two, I mean, especially game 3, if you could make it a quick, no.
That guy's a psycho. I might be in the minority, and you were teasing me. I'm excited. Two teams that have never won a World Series playing for their first World Series. They're both entertaining young teams. And it's just different. Get tired of seeing Houston in the World Series every year. Boring.
You will not watch a minute of it.
Of course I will.
Okay, no. Okay, you're going to watch Friday night? No. Saturday night, Sandy will have you do so.
You don't know what I've got going on this weekend.
Okay, I definitely know what you have going on Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, Sunday night I'll be.
Yeah, you're going to be watching Bears and
Hey, man, listen, don't discount. I'm tech savvy enough to know how to record a game and go back and watch it at my leisure. I'll be giving reports. I'll be the Sports Bar World Series correspondent. Since nobody else seems to care, I care. I'm excited for it.
It is on Fox for everybody who couldn't watch TBS if you were on Fubo or whatever one that did.
No, Fubo, you got the hack. You watch it on MLB Network and you learn Spanish in the process.
I did.
Yeah. It's like Major League Baseball's postseason sponsored by Rosetta Stone.
Okay. Example. Batter comes up to the plate. Instead of saying, today 1 for 3, Oi, 1 for 3.
Oh.
Oi means today.
Okay.
There we go.
Esta Grande. I just, listen for words that I recognize immediately.
Other baseball notes, the Mets will interview, I know, shocking, former Brewers manager Craig Counsell. Why did I say shocking? Well, they just hired away the former Brewers executive David Stearns to run the whole thing. As expected, Bob Melvin leaving the Padres. He's being introduced today as the new manager of the Giants. The Padres won 82-80 last season.
Boring. These are boring moves. Retread. Didn't work here. Let's try it here. What do you expect? The guy's going to change? Things are going to get different?
Okay, in the Mets instance, that's a Bean McDermott or vice versa. That's
it's
who I'm
the
comfortable.
pipeline.
Yeah,
Sure.
whom I'm comfortable. And the Boston Red Sox, you tell me if this is boring or different. They hired Craig Breslow, who was a pitcher, spent 12 years in the majors, last being in 2016. He's leading their baseball operations now. It takes over for Chaim Bloom. Breslow is a Yale graduate. Was the assistant GM of the Cubs last year.
Yeah, that's different. I like that. That one I will pay attention to. The other ones, but Bob Melvin, boring. Just a boring hire. If you're the Giants, if you're a Giants fan, you're just like, what an uninspired kind of. Even you, the Mets, Craig. They're interviewing Craig Counsell. How is that going to inspire any sort of enthusiasm?
Oh, this even gets better. I left this out. I forgot to mention it. Take a guess who is being rumored to interview for the Angels. Buck Showalter.
Of course.
Of course he'll go out there and be just sitting, and that team will be terrible next year. Yes, last night was opening night for the NBA. Tonight it feels a little bit more like opening night, right? Because it takes center stage. There are 12 games tonight. Miami opening home against Detroit. The doubleheader on ESPN as the Celtics and Knicks at 7, followed by the Mavs and Spurs at 9:30. If you missed it from last night, Devin Booker had 32 in a Suns win at Golden State. And Nikola Jokic, he's back. I don't have to worry about the parade right now. 29 points as Denver beating the LA Lakers.
Win is parade.
I want to go home.
Win is parade. No.
I want to go home.
Some of PJ's best bets tonight's slate. He liked the under 219.5 between the Cavs and the Nets. He likes the Kings on the money line. He likes the Pelicans tonight as well. Just a couple of plays for you there if you want to tail our Odyssey Sports Betting Insider.
I haven't even brought that up. Did you see the Kings put out a video celebrating their 100 years of the franchise, Danger, dating back to the days in Rochester?
You know that any kid now with a MacBook Pro can put together a video and make it look like this town once sported an NBA team. Where did they play?
They played at the Blue Cross Arena, and before that, the Edgerton Sports Arena.
Don't believe it.
It's true. Well, if you go in the Blue Cross Arena, there's nothing there.
Right. Says who? That's what I'm saying.
But if you go out to Fisher and you go to their gym, Danger, the Bobby Wanzer court, they have a little kind of display with Bobby Wanzer and memorabilia.
Yeah. I've heard it all before. What are you going to tell me next? That Rochester once had a professional football team, an NFL team? I ain't buying it, pal. I'm not. My eyes are wide open. I don't believe everything I read and see on the internet. I actually like facts.
Finally, they are still making, who knew, This Is Sports Center commercials. Remember those? Like you had the one with the late NFL writer John Clayton. Some of them are really good.
Clayton wearing the Slayer t-shirt.
Right. That's the top one.
Letting
right?
his hair down. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that one. Well, I think this one isn't at that level, but I think it is pretty clever. And this was just released in time for yesterday. In the middle of the ESPN offices, this is the setting. There sits a penalty box where Jack Eichel and Jonathan Marcia show. They're sitting there in their Vegas gear, and here comes Steve Levy. Steve Levy just asked the two of them, what are you in for? They both simultaneously say, slashing, high sticking. And then one of the two asked Levy, hey, what are you in for? And he says his infraction was replied all to the company-wide email. Yeah, I think we are. We have one of those.
Everybody
here, right?
does. It's terrible. What did I see? One of the signs I think I saw on College Game Day, something like James Franklin replies all, something like that. It's become an insult. Now, don't be reply all person. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. We got last call coming in, but this guy has the fast pass. Mike and Sodas. What's going on?
Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys. As the Sports Bar's self-proclaimed greatest baseball fan, I wanted to call up. I like Danger. I'm excited about the World Series.
Thank you, Mike.
Liar. You are lying.
Thank you, Mike.
I am not lying. First of all, Arizona did win a World Series in 2001 with Schilling and Johnson.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, I didn't even count that. I'm sorry.
Second, Danger can watch the Bears freely because the World Series isn't on Sunday.
Very good. Very good.
NFL.
Yeah.
But also, having two new teams here, teams that haven't been there, I'm with Danger. The Braves, the Dodgers, the Astros.
Boring.
Yeah, give me new teams, new players, new stories. And, Gene, you all right about one thing. no Arizona fans around. I think my dad is the only Arizona fan I know, and he only likes them when they win, which isn't very much, and it's only because my sister lives there.
Yeah.
My sister lives there, and she and her whole family are all misfit Met fans. So
Wow.
there you go.
If I remember correctly, you're a Reds fan. Is that it?
I am a Reds fan.
Oh, you missed. Oh, you missed your shot, dude. You missed your shot. Your ownership didn't help you out. That could have been your Reds. Can you imagine, Danger? Like it was the Reds instead of the Diamondbacks.
You pointed out earlier that the only reason why Arizona's in the postseason is because the the Pirates, took 2 or 3 from the Cubs.
Yeah,
the Cubs choked away their postseason berth. Ridiculous.
Gene, my Reds swept the Rangers and the Diamondbacks this year.
And that gets you a cookie.
Yeah, they're going to hang a banner for that on the outfield?
It gives me something to hope for, baby. Baseball, it's all about hope and dreams, like Bruce Springsteen said. Right?
Okay, Mike, I'm going to let you. I'm going to let you go because you're starting to sound like the teacher from Peanuts there in that connection.
Yeah, Mike, appreciate the call as always. That's Mike and so does Bay. See, Mike gets it. Appreciate that, buddy.
And, shame on me. Yes, Arizona won a World Series in 2001.
Well, I was thinking to myself, I didn't want to say anything because I know we have a lot of Yankee fans listening. That was like a weird year where it's like, oh, this is destiny. It was 9/11. It was, and then Arizona just had to ruin it for the big unit just had to ruin it for everybody. All right, let's get the last call there. Mike doing a great job teeing us up. 866-4FAN if you want to join us. 866-4326. We'll tell you about tomorrow's heavy lift show. Next in the sports bar, Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester. We talked about that NBA.
I think what always stands out for me with Matt is his competitiveness and his pace of play. He plays fast and he competes and he stays on the puck. He then dictates the play. He's a play-driving type of player because of how much he stays on the puck.
There's Amerks head coach Seth Appert talking about Matt Savoy. A little rehab assignment. He'll be on the ice tonight for the Amerks as they host the Charlotte Checkers at Blue Cross Arena. That's a game we'll have for you here on the Sports Leader, your proud home of Rochester Americans hockey. Puck drop with Don Stevens coming up here at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, look, this has a little bit of a different feel, and I'm hopeful that Wednesday night hockey can become a thing here in town, just because the way the AHL has to schedule, you have to put these weeknight games, and it's a tough spot for a lot of families. But hopefully we get a few thousand out there at the arena.
Boy,
tonight.
if the other night was any indication, where Mount Hope Avenue was just kind of bombarded with fans wanting to get a glimpse and wanting to get a picture, wanting to hang with the Rochester Americans, meet the players night on Monday night. Yeah, then there is a pretty decent following. And a lot of these guys coming back, again, like they're names that you're familiar with. You're familiar with Mersch. You're familiar with Kulik, Roseanne. Certainly the opportunity to see Matty Savoy before he eventually ends up as a pro. Like, these are all great opportunities for hockey fans.
I don't like that rule whatsoever. Like, you have to, be in the NHL or back to junior, and the only reason he's here is for conditioning. Okay, well, look, you got to... Buying a little time up there in Buffalo. I don't blame the Sabres for making this move. So.
No, it'll be a lot of fun tonight. And every Amerks home game is a good time at Blue Cross Arena. And again, that game tonight on the Fan Rochester starting at 7 o'clock. Now, tomorrow in the Sports Bar, it's really more like the Sports But we're abbreviated. Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy Sports, comes in for the Heavy Lift Show. That'll be at 3:25. We'll help set your Week 8 fantasy football lineups and take you right up to Bills pregame at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Really, really great show today. Lots of fun, lots of great insight from Bruce Nolan, the Bruce exclusive podcast, also BuffaloRumblings.com, sharing his thoughts on the Buffalo Bills. We learned about the plurality pie today, which was nice. Also, Scott Reynolds from Pewter Report stopping by to share the latest headlines out of the Bucs, and they're preparing for tomorrow night, taking on the Bills in prime time. From Orchard Park. So both of those conversations now available for you. Wherever you get your podcasts, search out the Sports Bar. We sound our best in the free to download Odyssey app. And of course, you can always check out the stream. Gino and I live on the Fan Rochester YouTube and Twitch channels. When you're there, make sure you like and subscribe as well. We'll roll the dice, spin the wheel. We know who's coming up next.
It was not Bart last night. So
it wasn't Bart. I think it was no, it wasn't D-Cell. It was Hot Take Hickey. I think it was last night.
Yep, exactly.
So we have a rotation going. Maybe tonight we get an hour of Bart. We'll see. Regardless, Amerks hockey coming up for you here just over an hour from now at 7 o'clock from Blue Cross Arena. Have a great night. Talk to you again tomorrow afternoon starting at 3 on the Sports Leader, the Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan.